There it is. Okay, good. Compensating for lag. Okay, salut et bienvenue à the movie discussion Pocket Dimension où le temps n'existe pas et the seule chose d'importance est le cinéma. I thought I'd do that in French since this is like our third or fourth French show in a row. So there you go, as we continue with our series on the new French Extremity. And tonight, this Devil's Night, night before Halloween. I don't know. It's not really a thing anymore. I always like to acknowledge it. It's not really a thing anymore. But it was a thing in the 80s and 90s. And of course, it's because of one of my favorite movies, The Crow, is about it. So I always acknowledge Devil's Night, even though nobody really talks about it or anything anymore, which I guess is good in a way, because really when it was going, all it meant was like arson and vandalism and stuff. So it's not like it was a great tradition, but I don't know. Just again, it's tied up in my memories of being a kid and stuff. Although I know that depending on where you are, Devil's Night never really was a thing anyway. Like in Canada, it's pretty much strictly the East. It's Quebec and the Atlantic provinces. It's not something that people in Ontario or the West really were dealt with. And I know in the U.S., it was mostly in Detroit and I guess somewhere, maybe some surrounding states there. I don't really know how far it penetrated. But now we're into 2019. It's been a long time. I remember a few years ago there was an episode of a show I watched, the Criminal Minds show, and it was called Devil's Night. And it got me excited. And it was about somebody setting fires and stuff, but it wasn't as cool as it sounded. But at least it was some sort of acknowledgement of it. And that was from an episode from maybe about 10 years ago, something like that. Anyway, this movie has nothing to do with that. This is this is Frontières from 2007. Directed by Xavier Jeans. Sometimes it's just billed as a straightforward horror film, which works fine, but because of its content and because of when it came out, it gets lumped into the new French Extremity, and you can see why, because once again, we're going to deal with some fairly extreme themes and certainly some very visceral violence, although the story itself is a pretty straightforward story, and the type of story that we've seen in a lot of horror movies, and this movie borrows from them and I guess homages them a bit. Certainly there's a lot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes going on in this movie, with I guess a European twist. So this is my first time seeing the movie. I only saw it a couple days ago, although it was one I was aware of. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead. It's one of the ones that I think stands out in this period. You know, those types of films, it's usually one of the first ones people mention.
Okay. I was not really aware. I mean, I can sort of see why. I can see why it's memorable. I mean, some of these movies, they're memorable for being twisted or having some sort of style to them. This one, I guess this thing that's memorable about it is just really kind of what the characters go through. It gets quite messy, as you. It's also a movie that has like one of those movies that has like an opening in a while where and I guess it's kind of similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing, where you really don't get a sense of what's coming just from like the first few minutes of the movie. You don't really, unless you know what the movie is. Right. But as far as the trope of people staying at some out of the way place, and then it all going wrong, that's been used even when they're on the run. I can't think, but there's other ones where people have been on the run from the law. So in this, instead of just having like some well-meaning teenagers or whatever like that, we've got a group of young thieves. So they're not exactly hardened criminals, but they are. Instead of just having like some oh shit! I just got a weird echo there. Yeah, that's gone. Did you hear that? Huh, that was really weird. No, I got my words coming back at me for just only a few seconds. It's gone now, so that's good. But it made me lose my train of thought. But anyway, I was gonna say they're not hardened criminals, but they are criminals, and they find themselves in over their head. And I guess as far as like subtext for this movie goes or themes, it's fairly obvious by the framing device and the way the movie's bookended that it's some sort of rejection of the direction politics were going in France at the time. Yeah. It's really sort of a take that to to that era. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that was in power at the time. Of course, I actually had it
I
somewhere.
had forgotten all that aspect of it actually until I watched it again. And I'd forgotten they were on the run too, because it doesn't really matter after a certain point.
No, not really. Again, it's more just like works as a framing device so they can sort of fit this story kind of within the message they're trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit, where is it?
But and so we've got Nazis in here, which is always fun. And I was trying to do the math on like how old would that guy be if he actually was in World War II.
Yeah, because he couldn't have been a kid. The whole idea was he's supposed to have been like a Nazi soldier that like took refuge in this place and has lived there ever since. So
like, let's say he was 20 at the end of the war, like he would still be like almost 100, right?
It's 2007, so I guess he could possibly be in his late 80s. So I guess it kind of works.
Yeah, the guy they got to play him is really old too. So
authenticity, at least.
Yeah.
So this is a movie. It's in French with subtitles, but the German parts were not subtitled for me. So when he started rambling in German, I caught words here and there because I know the odd German word, but I don't actually speak German or understand it. So there were things he said that I did not know what he was saying. Although I guess it's not entirely important since he's just sort of a guy, crazy guy with his ranting and raving and stuff. He probably doesn't say anything that he didn't already.
Yeah. Mine was the same way, and I was like, man, why are the subtitles broken on this thing?
Yeah.
But because they go back and forth in German and French quite a bit, and it just doesn't subtitle the German bits.
No. But Sarkozy, that's who I meant. So yeah, it's kind of like a take that against like Sarkozy era France, which people may or may not know actually at the time had some fairly controversial anti-Muslim policies. So, and as you see, we've got Muslim characters in this movie, sort of fighting against the extreme version of that. Because also, so what happens here? It's framed by there being a bunch of like violent protests after they only say an extreme right candidate for president is elected, and there's all this backlash. And so, against the backdrop of that, these guys use the chaos to stage a robbery. And oh my god, I'll be right back. I'll tell you what this is in a second.
So you've got Nazis that are living like Cole said earlier, the lots of Chainsaw Massacre references.
I don't know if you can hear that or not. But what that is I I've got like a beard trimmer, and I must have gotten water in it the other day, because now every once in a while it randomly turns itself on. So that's what that was. Just in my bathroom there. Sorry about that. At least it's close and I could get it done quickly, but it better not turn on again during this show. It's like it's haunted.
But so they stay in this hotel and then pretty much immediately get attacked by some of the same folks, right? Some of the same crazy Nazi people that chase them. It's the two guys at first chase them and they crash their car into the tunnels, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a family. It's like it's a weird, twisted family again. The sort of vibes of Texas Chainsaw or what's the Craven one? The Hills Have Eyes. It's like a weird, inbred, twisted family. This one based on. It's interesting because obviously Nazism is the most extreme version of like how far you can go to the right or like that. But they even they even add cannibalism on top of it. Yeah. Just because it's a horror movie, because like I am in no way defending the Nazis because they were about as bad as they got, but there was no official Nazi policy that was pro-cannibalism. They drew the line at that, I suppose. But it's a horror movie, so why not throw some cannibalism in it? And I'm not saying there were no Nazis ever that didn't practice cannibalism. Maybe they did. I don't know. I'm just saying the Nazis already have all the worst crimes of humanity. So you might as well add Nazism to it too. Makes for a good show for this.
Yeah, might as well. They're always fun. It's always fun to have Nazis thrown into your horror film.
Yeah, with their speeches about purity and blah blah blah, and that's really what's going on here. Is the idea is like so you have this Nazi who just basically lived out the rest of the war and hid in this like remote part of France, and opened up a hotel, and then I guess I don't know started kidnapping and raping women so he could have children. And
none of them have like the Aryan look, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, they even point that out like later. Like, I guess they just have trouble getting the kind of stock that they want, right? Because they're willing to take Yasmin, even though they consider her inferior and having muddy, not impure blood. But he's still willing to say, okay, Carl, she's going to be your wife, even though she's not ideal. So, but at the same time, when you see all the bodies they have hanging up, I'm just like, I don't know. You seem to get a lot of people come in through here. You don't get any blonde-haired, blue-eyed ones. I mean, it's France, right? It's it's not a. There's a lot of traffic going through here.
Yeah, well, I take it back. There is the one blonde lady.
Yeah, Gilbert.
She's probably not a natural blonde though.
Couldn't tell. Yeah, so we got a band of thieves, and during the riots, and one of them is shot, who is Yasmin's brother. And then they split up into two groups. One group to take the brother to the hospital, and the other group to go ahead to just try to get out of the city and away from the cops and to forge ahead. So they split into two groups. And the group that goes ahead is Alex, who seems to be kind of like the de facto leader. He's sort of the tough guy. They establish that because there's a part where they're running from the cops, or a cop actually does catch up to him and draws on him. But Alex just like very calmly stares him down, walks up to him and disarms him because he's just that sort of tough guy. He knows the cop won't fire. So he punches him out and blah, blah, blah. And he's with Farid, who... So is Farid dating Yasmin at the time? He says he has a girlfriend. But I don't know if it's supposed to be Yasmin or something.
I know whoever is her baby's father gets killed, right?
Well, pretty much everybody gets killed.
Spoilers. No, I mean, he gets killed, I think, before they even get there.
It's her brother who dies before they get there.
Okay, that's her brother. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, her brother's dying wish is, and so the movie opens also not with just the stuff about what's going on, but that you have a monologue by her, and she mentions that she's pregnant. She's 3 months pregnant, and she's considering abortion because she says she doesn't want to bring a baby into a world full of such hatred and violence.
Right.
So the movie, in many ways, makes a very good argument for abortion, I must say. Because everything she says is true and even worse than you could imagine. You're like, yeah, I could understand not wanting to bring a baby into this world too. Look at it. Holy shit. So you could look at it that way if you wanted. I'm not being totally serious, but you know what I mean? You still could take that view. I'm not saying people should flip out on this movie and say that that's a pro-abortion, but yeah. But anyway, when her brother, just before he dies in the hospital and she takes off before they can question her, his dying sort of request is he says, screw, it's implied whoever it was who's the baby's father, she doesn't get along with him anymore, or maybe she dumped him or something. He says, don't worry about him. It's, it'll be your baby. I'll help you raise it, even though he knows he's going to. Anyway, he just says, don't abort it. You should have the baby, is what he tells her when she leaves. So, but it is mentioned later that so I don't know if it's Alex's baby or it's somebody else's baby, but it is said that she was with Alex at one point. They used to be together because at one point somebody even says you're a couple, and they're like, no, we're not together anymore. So they had been together at some point. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess we're supposed to assume it's his, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, he never really mentions it.
No. It's weird. Yeah, so I wondered if that was just a bit of dialogue I missed. Because for a while I thought she used to be with Alex, but now she's with Farid. But they never made it seem, she never seemed particularly upset about Farid, so I don't know. So maybe Farid, who mentions having a girlfriend several times, is somebody else. No, I'm pretty sure it is her, because I think he says, Yaz will kill me. So I'm almost positive, yes, at this point she is dating Farid. Yeah, because at the part where Farid and Alex first arrive at the hotel and they're being seduced by the two girls,
Mm-hmm.
You know, Alex is all for it. He thinks he hit the jackpot here. And Fred is saying, no, I can't have a girlfriend. At one point, I'm pretty sure he says, Yaz will kill me. So it must be her. I have to say, as far as casting goes, this movie has some pretty good casting, especially the non-blonde woman, Claudia, I think her name is. My God, she's one evil-looking person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole time, she just has, like, this weird scowl on her face, and her eyes are downcast. Like, you feel just the vibes of hate rolling off her the second they come in. Like, I would have left that hotel. You know, it's not like I was suspected they were part of a Nazi cult that was going to kill and eat me, but I just would have left because of the way she looked at them. Like, holy shit. They're just there back the thing, knocking back drinks, being rude as hell to them. Alex is acting like the tough guy. He doesn't care. Fred, I guess, is just following Alex's lead, but I would have gotten out of there. Not because I thought anybody was going to kill me, but because I just didn't want to be anywhere near these ice-cold bitches.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth. But Alex, he's down for anything. He's like, they're girls. That's good enough for me. And then, you know, Gilbert just starts furiously making out with him. He's like, all right.
Uh-huh.
And then they do take them back. Here's the thing that surprised me is that, like, I guess because you can't judge all these movies, is I expected more sex. Like, it cuts off really early. They go back to the room. The girls make out with each other for a bit, even though they're sisters, because they're willing to do that, which makes sense considering what they're trying to do. The depths of their depravity. And then, you know, Farid is just filming, but then the dark-haired one, Claudia, basically, like, tosses him on the bed. You know, it's not like he couldn't overpower her, but it's implied that he definitely goes through with it. But that's what I mean. You know, the last episode we were talking about, like, how in so many movies it's kind of pointless to show a sex scene. In this movie, I don't think it would have been pointless.
Yeah.
And yet they cut off, which kind of surprised me, especially considering how graphic things get later on. But they really don't show nudity, nothing. So that kind of surprised me.
It was given an NC-17 rating, too. That's why it couldn't be released with the After Dark Film Festival.
Yeah, I read that.
It was in the list. Like, when they released it on DVD.
I give credit to the director because they said, like, if he made certain cuts, it would have been eligible, and he wouldn't do it. So I give him
I don't even really think it's that bad. I mean...
No, I mean, yeah. I
mean, the gore stuff, sure, but I mean, that's not really what they care about, right? Generally, it's sex.
That seems to be generally what they care about. And yeah, there really isn't sex in this movie. There's just implied sex.
Yeah.
You know, they show them making out in the room, and then very quickly the scene ends and moves on. Which, yeah, like I said, kind of surprised me. So yeah, so they're there first. They're on their way trying to get out of the country at this well out of the way little inn. Where, again, you should have gotten vibes that something was up. Again, I'm not saying any character should be savvy enough to suspect just how horrible things are going to get. Nobody would, right? But, I mean, you got these two women that are just crazy, stone-cold bitches, but then they're also really weird, sexually aggressive. And then you have the big bearded guy, the big burly muscular guy yelling at them like he's the boss, and they're talking about... And then they all eat dinner together. Like... That's so weird. Like, what kind of hotel is this, you know? And yet they go with it. And the part that upsets them is, like, when they start trying to feed the grandmother. I get how that's uncomfortable, but it's actually not that fucked up. And yet Alex, like, acts like, you guys are freaks. Like, what the hell? Like, no, you'll see the freak stuff later on. The fact that they're trying to feed their invalid grandmother, I get is unpleasant and uncomfortable because you're a stranger. But, I mean, it's kind of weird. Like, that's where he's, like, draws the line. And then he's like, you're right for it. And then he drags Fred and he's like, you're right. They're whores. Like, Jesus Christ. Really? You're going to say that in front of the big burly angry guy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Alex is pretty dumb in a lot of ways. He just seems to be out trying to prove how tough he is. I don't know. He somewhat redeems himself later on, but he starts off as pretty fucking unlikable. And I realize they're not supposed to be that likable. They're just a group of street punks, kind of thieves, etc. They're not great people, but still, they're what we have, and obviously they're a little bit more admirable than what they're coming up against, the ultimate evil in the cannibalistic Nazis.
Yeah, cannibals or Nazis that are going to kill us and eat us.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And take our woman to turn her into breeding stock. Well, our woman, the female.
I guess that's the only part that doesn't make sense to me, because I mean, obviously she's not, pure blood or whatever, so I guess they're not that concerned with it.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Like, they show all these bodies. It seems like they're very successful at getting people all the time. That's why I don't understand why it's so hard to find what they would consider a suitable wife for the other brother, Carl. So what we've got is we got two sisters, two brothers. I don't know where Hans fits in. Is he another brother? I don't know. Probably.
I mean, I don't know.
They're probably all siblings with probably different mothers, right? You would assume.
You think they actually are related? I didn't know. I thought maybe they just called themselves family because...
Oh, I figure they have to be family. Otherwise, why the hell would they have anything to do with them?
Who is it? Eva.
She's different. Yes, she's not family. She was kidnapped when she was a kid. But as far as I can tell, I think the other, maybe Hans, I think they all are siblings. Insofar, at least, as that what's his name? The old guy is their father. But they probably had a series of different mothers. The idea, he probably had different wives who he raped or whatever, and they eventually killed or
that makes
ran off or something like that, is what I assume. But yeah, but as far as like Carl and Geis or whatever his name is goes, they're definitely brothers. Oh, Getz. Sorry, yeah, Getz. And it makes for a really interesting dynamic. I'm jumping ahead here, but what's really kind of amusing, and it shows like some thought was put into these characters, is after Yaz first tries to escape, after she's declared that she's going to be the wife and everything like that, and she fights back and she tries to escape. When Getz catches up with her in that room and they have their crazy bloody battle, like when he's flipping out and attacking her and he's so angry, he's not angry that she's trying to escape. He says, "Oh, now that you're Carl's wife, you think you don't have to listen to me, huh?" Like, he really resents the fact that Carl is the favorite brother. In fact, this is all preceded by a scene where the senior guy says, "Carl is now the head of the family. I'm retiring," whatever. He's succeeding, and Getz hates it. And he's taking all that rage out on her, who wants nothing to do with you people. But yeah, he's like, "What? You think now that you're Carl's wife?" And he's going on. He's like, "I'm important. I give the orders." It's pretty.
Yeah, I really like that scene. I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but he turns the saw on so they won't hear him screaming about how he wants to be. He's basically saying, "I'm the leader. I'm the head," or whatever.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
I love how like far gone he is, that he doesn't realize she just wants to get out, but no, he thinks she's flaunting her new position over him, which is great. But yeah, he's I mean, they're all pretty bad, but you see him doing all sorts of terrible things, especially like when she's caught the second time, because she escapes the first time when he's not there and he picks her up in the car, and then when like she realizes he's driving her back, she tries to get out, and he takes her head and slams it off the dashboard about 15 times. Like, I have no idea how she's even conscious when he brings her back. Like, holy hell. And I mean, she doesn't explicitly get hit in the stomach, so maybe she wouldn't lose the baby, but man, she takes a lot of physical abuse.
Yeah, she got the shit beat out of her by virtually all of those people.
Yeah. At a time. But yeah, I wondered if Hans, like, wasn't a full brother or something, because they treat him differently.
Yeah.
And even though he's kills and everything, he's not as sadistic as the rest of them. He's just more like, I have a job to do and I do it type thing. And he's kind of like the Leatherface of the family, except he's not nearly as fearsome.
Yeah.
But he's a big guy.
You feel some compassion for his character, because he and the other girl, they're actually in love. Damn it, I had her name. Eva. I mean, they're actually in love, and here's another twist to the story. They're having children that are somehow deformed, and they are living down in the mines.
Okay, I never really understood if that was her children or who his children. I just figured they were whatever women they brought in. I didn't know if any of them actually were Eve's children, or she just considered them her children because she looked after them. I didn't really know. It's kind of vague.
When she's cutting her hair, she goes through the whole thing about how her and Hans, apparently, according to the lead guy, their blood is
impure or whatever.
Yeah, something. So the kids are coming out all fucked up. So they've had like 4 or 5 kids, but they're all fucked up.
Yeah, I knew the kids were like considered impure, so they were banished to the mines. And I wish that was explored a little more, because you barely see it.
Yeah.
Because there's a part where Farid and Alex have tried to escape after they crash the truck, after they crash the truck, they're under, like, they're down in, like, the valley, or they crawl through the shaft that will lead them to the mine. And for me, for all the horrible things that happen in the movie, that's the thing that would personally be the hardest for me. Like,
oh, man.
I realize that it's very easy in an audience, from an audience perspective, to get frustrated with characters when they do things you wouldn't do. But when Alex, like, has, like, a panic attack and can't move anymore,
yeah,
like, I could totally see that happening to me, because I don't even think I could go in there. Like, I can't be in a confined space. The idea that I'm crawling and it could get stuck, like, oh my God. But yeah, when he's screaming, "Go forward, come on, move," and they do get out, and he immediately gets hit by Hans, because Hans is on the other end waiting. But that's when he finds out, like, there's the children are down there with them, and they're weird, deformed, like Gollum or something like that, right? I wish we saw more of that.
Yeah,
but we don't, which is kind of too bad.
Yeah, you kind of expect to see more.
I thought there would be a much longer sequence of Farid running around down there with, like, the children after him. And even though this is a movie where you pretty much expect the characters to die, I have to say it did play with my expectations a few times, where characters either died, maybe not in the order I expected them to die, or just not in the way I expected them to die. Farid is probably the main one. I thought he would live longer, and I certainly didn't think he would, like, get cooked alive.
Yeah,
but he does. He winds up in that room where they turn the steam up, and they give him ridiculous amount of, like, 3rd-degree burns, and then he just gets shot, I think, which would be a mercy after what he went through. But yeah, I figured as the movie was going on, like, we'll probably have one survivor, and if it's going to be somebody, it'll be Yaz following the survivor girl trope. But I figured Farid would live longer, and he did not. Like, who lives the longest? Like, Alex, I guess? Or no, I can't remember. But yeah, because she's chained up with Alex.
They're all
that's where you get
rather quickly.
Yeah.
Except for her, the main. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And when Farid was running around for a while, I thought, okay, he'll have more part to play, but he really didn't. He gets caught in the room, and I kept expecting him to make some sort of escape, but there was no escape. He just gets cooked in that room, and then he gets shot at the end. When he comes out and his face is all melted, you're like, okay, he's not going anywhere. That's the end of him. But
yeah, well, I mean, they really just wanted to kill and eat those guys.
Yeah,
they didn't really care about.
Yeah, were they already eating one of them at the dinner?
Maybe.
Because there's a part where they, like, it's funny. I'm a meat eater, you're a meat eater, but any movie about cannibalism, all they have to do is show any meat, and suddenly your stomach turns, right? And there's all sorts of close-up shots of them, like, cutting the meat and stuff. And again, it's just cutting meat. That's all it looks like. There's no blood or anything. But because of the context, you're just like, oh, there's just all these close-up shots, and you can hear the sound of the meat getting cut. It's the type of thing that can maybe put you off meat, at least for a while. Like, I couldn't eat meat while watching the movie. That's for fucking sure.
Yeah, it's like an ultimate taboo, something that's like a no-no in all cultures.
Yeah. It's the one that really disturbs and upsets me. And that's what I said. I've always wondered why, like, as a society, with movies, often we seem to almost make it more of a joke than anything else. And I'm like, to me, it's worse than anything. It's worse than, like, torture and rape and everything. And I don't know why, because, I mean, once you're dead, you're dead. But I don't know.
Crime against humanity.
Yeah, I really do think of it as that. But as I said, it's just fun that they add that on top, because that's not really for all the horrible things that Nazis stood for and practiced, particularly during the war. Cannibalism was not one of them. You just figure that this guy is just being extra practical.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is, like, you look at the animal kingdom, and even, like, chimps, like, they eat their own. Like, they'll eat the babies and stuff. And, we're like, 99.9% the same as them?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is, like, you can name certain animals that are cannibals, but the vast majority are not.
Right.
They won't even eat their own dead, like, in a situation. Like, it's very rare, and there's not too many species out there that, like, actively hunt each other. Like, spiders are cannibals. A spider will eat another cannibal, even, like, the same kind of spider and stuff like that. But I mean, that's really way low down. But when you come to mammals, no.
Well, it's weird with some primates that do and some that don't. It's like the usual with some, and the others, there's, they don't do it. They don't ever do it.
Because sometimes you'll hear too about some mammals, like some particularly like carnivores, like lions. It's true. Like you hear like when if a new lion takes over a pride, and there's ones that aren't his, he'll kill them, but he doesn't eat them.
Yeah,
he simply kills them. And they so to them, even for the lions, there's dead lion there. They eat, but it's like a taboo for them. Like it doesn't occur to them. They're dead. We can eat them. They don't. So even though they killed them themselves, so like you said, yeah, cannibalism. Ugh. But yeah, it's just an extra layer for this film. But it's funny, just the type of things that I can watch and can't, because we just watched, one of the most disturbing movies ever for Irreversible. And I mean, I'm not saying I can get through that rape scene with a smile, but I got through it. And yet I had a much harder time with Alex being tortured by the old man, particularly when they clipped his Achilles tendons.
Yeah.
I can't watch that shit, man. Like,
that's always a bad one, like in A Pet Cemetery. When Gage cuts...
cuts from... Yeah, I think Chucky gets away with it in one or two of the movies, too. Because you can just feel it. And he's given the same sort of speech that she gives in Misery before she hobbles him about what they would do to the slaves working at the diamond mines in Africa to keep them from being able to run away.
Really?
It's basically the same speech, except in his case, he does like the pliers, where in hers, it was like the weird sledgehammer thing, which is not actually in the book. In the book, she cuts one of his feet off.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But I think it's actually better in the movie. I like the hobbling thing where she like puts the splint up, and because she does it to both legs, because he does it to one. She's like, it's like, we're almost done. Like, can you imagine the worst pain you've ever felt in your life? Oh my God. And you still have another leg, and she's going for it. But it's basically the same speech. They both give it about how, back in, I guess, the 19th century when they had slaves working at the diamond mines in Africa, that's what they would do to them so that they would not be capable of running.
I think if Misery didn't have that scene in it, it wouldn't be as memorable, because that's what people remember about that film is the hobbling.
Yeah, probably.
It's so graphic, man. His foot, like, oh God.
Yeah.
It's great, though.
It is really great. It's one of the best King adaptations for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it really relies on the two leads, and they do a great job.
Yeah.
James Caan and Kathy Bates.
Yeah, Kathy Bates is a great actress.
Yeah, she's done a lot of cool stuff.
She's done a lot of the American Horror Story stuff.
Okay, that's cool.
Her and Judy Garland? No, Judy.
Not Judy Garland.
No, not Judy Garland. I can't think of her name, but anyway, another older actress. Oh no, Jessica. Fuck, never mind.
Okay, I probably wouldn't know any. I'm much worse with actresses than actors, especially the older ones. I don't know. Like, names actresses over 50. I don't know, 3 or 4 of them. Not too many.
She finally came back. She was not in the past few seasons, but came back this last season. Not the current season, but
she's in another King adaptation too. She's in Dolores Claiborne.
Yeah,
Claiborne or whatever, which is kind of underrated. Like, it's not amazing and it's not scary like a Stephen King. Really, it's just more about how shitty human nature is. But it's pretty decent. The book and the movie. I don't know. I think they're worth a read, worth a watch. And Kathy Bates is the main character in that.
Jessica Lange. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah. See, I know the name. I know I've seen her in things, but I cannot put a face to her. I've definitely seen her and stuff.
Yeah, she's an older actress now.
Yeah.
But Grey Gardens. Well, no, that was the movie, wasn't it? Not the documentary.
I know what the movie is, but I haven't seen it. But yeah, that's what's her name? The younger one is shit. Barrymore, Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking that was her. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I haven't. I know what both are, but I haven't seen the movie or the documentary. I know what it is. I know what it's about.
I would say watch the documentary for sure. It's a great one to reference.
Yeah, I like stuff like that. I don't actually understand the title of this movie, Frontières.
I don't either. I was going to ask you if maybe you had some insight on that.
Not really. And I really don't know why the S is in parenthesis.
Well, on one of the posters, it's a different color. The S and the parentheses are red.
Yeah.
So when you first look at it, all you see is the Frontière.
Yeah. And yeah, it's in white, and the S is in the red.
Yeah. So I'm not sure either. There's got to be some significance, though.
Yeah. I should have looked into that beforehand.
But Von Geisler is the lead Nazi guy, right?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's right. Von Geisler. His sons Getz and crap, who's the other one? Oh, Carl. But yeah, he gives them all good. Yeah, I guess Hans must be like related because he's got a German name too, right? So he must also be like a son because they all have German names. Carl and Hans and Getz. You know, he gave them all good, strong German names, as you'd expect him to.
He had no problem killing Hans at the end.
Hans kills him.
Right, but I mean, he ordered the other guys to shoot Hans.
Because he wouldn't, because he wouldn't follow his orders.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so for that scene, for people know, like, so they have their weird, twisted dinner scene where he passes on the leadership to Carl, hates it, but he accepts it. And then in a moment of confusion, Yaz gets up and grabs a big knife and holds it to his throat, thinking, taking him hostage is the only way to get her out of this situation. They all freak out, and they all have guns, of course, pointing guns at him. But, like, Hans has the shotgun, and he orders Hans. He says, lower the shotgun. Listen to me. And he's like, no, I won't, blah, blah, blah. So then he orders one of the other brothers to shoot Hans, and before they can do it, Hans gets a shot off and actually kills him. And then and Hans is also killed by Carl or Getz or whoever else it was. That's the other thing. It wasn't just like the good guys or whatever deaths, the order that confused me. Not confused me, but surprised me a bit. But because like the last ones standing are the two girls. Mm-hmm. I don't think you really expect going in that they'll be the final ones to deal with.
Well, I had almost like forgotten there were more of them. I was like, okay, you killed those guys, so time to go home. I mean, the ending's really drawn out. I mean, it's well done, but it's it's probably like 20 minutes at least. Like just
you mean like starting from when she escapes the dinner?
Yeah,
yeah, because she escapes the dinner in the confusion of the shootout, and who's the first person to come after her down below is Getz. So yeah, they're really great, and this is where the violence really gets turned up when she has that great fight with Getz, where I mean he really just screws up, really, because he's an idiot. He's got her completely physically overmatched and everything like that. But then, what distracts him? Something distracts him before she hits him.
He's ranting about how, he's the best and should be the leader. And then that's when she gets to grab the axe.
Is Eva down there at the time? Because there's at least 2 or 3 times where Eva specifically screaming at people is the main reason why she's able to get Yaz is able to like get the drop on them. Eva screams so much she keeps distracting them that it gets them all killed. It's pretty hilarious, really. Because you have that scene, like you said, where Eva's the only sympathetic member, really, even though she's the one who in the end killed the first guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or who was that? Yeah. So yeah, there was actually a whole other guy. I can believe. Yeah. Oh yeah. So Alex was with Farid. Yaz with somebody else. We forgot about him.
Yeah.
Yaz was with Tom?
Sammy.
Okay.
Wait, no. Sammy's the brother. I'm sorry.
Is it? I don't think there is a Sammy. Oh, yeah. Sammy's the brother. You're right. Yeah, so it's Tom. So we forgot all about Tom. Okay, I can't even remember. Tom's like the first. Yeah, I'm trying to remember now. I'm trying to remember the sequence of events. Alex and what's his name arrive there first, get seduced by the girls, piss them off, get chased out when Carl shows up and draws the gun on them. They manage to get out in confusion, get in the car, get chased down by Getz. runs them off the road. They crash. They crawl through the thing, only to be met by Hans. Hans hits Alex and immediately captures him. Frid falls back down into the tunnels where he gets chased around by the children for a while. Eventually winds up in a weird steam room where Hans turns all the steam on and fries him. And then Yasmin arrives with Tom. What happens?
So the one hanging by his Achilles tendons
is Tom.
Okay. But doesn't Fritz come across him at one point?
Hans is the one that actually kills Tom. Or no, I mean, Eva is the one that kills Tom. That's why I want to point it out. He's already pretty much dying, but they order her to, and she goes through with it. It's funny because they make her so sympathetic later on, but she doesn't even seem that reluctant. I thought it would at least show her like with some trepidation. She just takes the knife and sticks it, buries it in his fucking throat. So the movie surprises me a few times with my expectations, and then I thought, oh, okay, she's not that sympathetic. And then later on, they make her super sympathetic. She spends the rest of the time trying to help Yaz and screaming at them, getting them killed. It's really quite funny. She just runs around screaming, "Stop! No! Stop!" And they get distracted, and then Yaz kills them. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I forgot about Tom. I guess he is the least to do, really. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Tom is technically the first to die, and yeah, he's hanging up there, and just sort of an afterthought. The senior Nazi says, kill him, and he makes Eva do it of all people, and she takes the knife and just sticks it in his throat, and he dies. And then she's chained, and then Yaz is chained up with Alex around the same time that Frid is still either free or about to die. And we're down to that. But yeah, Tom barely does anything in the movie except just get killed.
Yeah, just someone else to be a kill.
Yeah. I can't actually, even though I saw the movie yesterday, I remember exactly how things go down with Alex and Frid, but I don't remember what happens with the other two, like how it initially starts.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I watched half of it last week, and I watched the other half today, so I'm kind of scatterbrained on it as well.
Shit.
But
let me check something here.
Alex and Yasmin are chained in the pig pen.
Yes, but this is before that.
Yeah. Oh, before that?
But I need before that when she's still with Tom. Oh no, that is Alex. God, I'm getting confused. Oh no, yeah. Tom and Frid. Oh, I see. I got Alex and Tom mixed up. Alex is the one that's always with her. Tom is actually the idiot that was like, and howling at the wolves and stuff with the chicks. That's Tom. I thought I was saying that was Alex. That was Tom. Okay. So Tom's really the loud, annoying guy. Okay. So Alex is the one that's with her all along, and it's Frid and Tom who are together. And Tom's the guy that, thinks it's awesome that they've got these two chicks and then calls them whores and everything. So that's Tom. Okay. So sorry about that. I mixed up Alex and Tom. So Alex is with Yasmin from the start because they're the ones that are together. Yeah. So Alex is kind of the leader and Tom is just a dick. Because even after when they're still driving in the cars, when they're still on their way there, one of them, Alex calls him on the phone to say I know where he is, and Alex tells him, "Look, Sammy died." He's like, "Oh, that's bad." He's like, "Don't tell Frid. Like he can't handle it." And he's like, "Okay." And so he doesn't tell Frid at the time, but he also doesn't seem to have any trouble hiding it. And at one point, and even before that, they know that Sammy might not make it. They know he was shot, but it's before they know he's died. He's blazing up in the car going, I feel relaxed now. I'm thinking, wow, you don't care at all.
Yeah.
That one of your gang is gut shot, bleeding out, and he's got a sister that's worried about it. But yeah, so all that crap I said earlier in the episode about Alex, sorry, that was Tom.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I kind of made them into the same character in my head. So
yeah, so that was Tom that acted like the idiot with the girls. That was Tom that froze up in the tunnels, and so he gets caught, and he's the first to die because he gets hung up there, and Frid tries to free him but can't get him off the hooks, and then shortly after that, he's murdered by the captain, or whatever you want to call him, and it's actually Eva that buries the knife in his throat. So then, so Alex is running around with Yasmin for a while, but they get captured. Although again, I can't remember this. I can't remember exactly how it happens. But then that's when they get chained up in the pig pen, and he manages to break her chains, but he can't get away, and she digs out through the mud and gets out, and that's Alex there. Yeah, but Alex goes through some pretty bad stuff, particularly the Achilles tendon stuff. And then, because he's not completely without compassion, even though he's a horrible monster, the Nazi captain or whatever says, like, I will grant you a final request. And his final request is, like, just finish me quickly. And he does. He takes out a nice German Luger or whatever and shoots him. Mm-hmm. So that's Alex. So, I'd had Tom and Alex mixed up for a bit there. But it was Alex who was always with Yasmin. I'm trying to think back of the scene between Eva. She makes her cut her hair. And I get why she says that, but then like it almost makes me think too much of like what is it? High Tension, where you have another like chick running around with short hair with blood all over her. Because the other thing is after she successfully kills Getz, not only she hit him with the axe a few times, but she manages to knock him onto the table with the table saw. So like it goes right. It's a great effect too. It looks really good. The gore effects in this movie are pretty good. She like slams him down the table, so he lands back first with it coming up through his chest. It's going she just gets coated in his blood for like the rest of the movie. She's like coated in his blood, and she already had blood and stuff on her before that. They even had a scene where the family made her like shower to wash it all off, but now she's all full of blood again. Well, her skin, her face and skin are just red for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I really like that scene. I like when she hits him with the axe, because she hits him quite a few times and almost like splits him down like on his shoulder. And then he pushes him back on the table saw or whatever that is.
Yeah. And at this point, she almost has like a psychotic break, which you can pretty much understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
After all the stuff she's been through and what she's seen happen to her friends, and now she's like very violently dispatched this guy with his blood all over. Yeah. So the rest of the movie is a lot of screaming. Her screaming and Eva screaming and them yelling at her, and there's a lot of screaming in the last, and which also again reminds me a lot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, except it seems to make it's not as annoying. In Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I mean, I understand, like, it's not like she would stop screaming, but the last 20 minutes in Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just like one long chase with that last girl screaming the entire time, like not even taking a breath. Like I have to turn down the volume whenever I'm at the end. And I just watched it the other day, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a good movie. I understand why it's a classic, but I do think that's drawn out too. And her screaming is just...
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like this is drawn out, but at least there's more going on. In that, it's simply her running from Leatherface. Running from Leatherface, running from Leatherface, running from Leatherface.
But there's scenes when she's not even being chased and she's screaming.
Yeah.
She's just running and screaming.
Yeah. I'm always amused by the, I know you've heard all the stuff about the making of the movie. Like the actress was such a poor runner that they had to keep like redoing the shots of her getting chased by, what's his name? The guy that played Leatherface. Yeah, Gunnar Hansen. Like Gunnar Hansen is over 300 pounds carrying a real chainsaw. And he keeps catching up to her because she's such a shitty runner. And they're like, no, run it back again. You have to stay in front of him. And she's like, I can't. Like, what kind of out of shape piece of shit was she? That she couldn't, like, keep it ahead of him. But anyway. Very good movie. I enjoy it. But yeah. And you can definitely see that this movie pays homage to it in some ways. Especially, of course, with the bizarre family dinner. You always have to have one of those.
Right. It's not quite as on the nose as like a Rob Zombie film.
No, because because it's more original. I mean, I know I don't want to be that person again and go on. I know people know, but I mean, I really do hate Rob Zombie's movies, and I don't feel they have any originality to them. And I feel like his movies just entirely rely on his take of something else that exists, even if it's not a remake. Because I mean, he remade Halloween or whatever, but his other movies aren't remakes; they're supposedly original. But all they feel like is bits and pieces of movies that already exist. Yeah. So this movie at least feels somewhat original compared to anything he's done that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, it just has the feel of that. I mean, I guess it's hard to do anything like that now and not say it's a ripoff of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But
yeah. Well, like I said, I don't feel this is a ripoff. I feel like it's, just sort of a spin on it. It plays homage, but it has enough of its own stuff going on. Hell, it's over in France.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the Nazi angle. We got some Muslim characters. Not that it's a big plot point, but
yeah, it really they don't really make a point out of it of saying that they're Muslim. I didn't even realize that till I was reading about it.
Well, yeah, there is a point where just early on when they're eating, and I don't know how many. Farid and Yaz definitely are. I don't know if they are all supposed. If you're reading it, it makes it sound like they all are, but I don't think they all were. Because I don't think Tom was, and I don't know if Alex was. But there's a part where when Tom and Farid when they have the first meal with them, Farid won't eat the pork, and as you might expect from the Nazis, like, what are you, a Jew? And he goes, no, I'm not a Jew, I'm a Muslim, but I just don't like pork. and the guy doesn't make any further comment about it. You thought maybe he'd say something, mean about it or something. Because but just the fact that they are Muslim is kind of enough of a point, because we have Muslim characters and we have, again, sort of this far right extremism mentioned for the political situation, for the backdrop, and then of course you have the furthest right you can imagine in like crazy Nazis. So it's making that sort of statement. I mean, it's easy to forget, or maybe not being aware of, like, for people like living that in the wake of 9/11, the U.S. was not the only country that had like bouts of Islamophobia. It happened in almost every Western country. So people living in any of those countries went through this around the time. This is 2007, so it's right smack into it. So the movie is making kind of a statement about that. Again, it's not trying to go out of its way. It's a horror movie, but clearly they wanted to make a statement about that. And as I said, it's kind of a take that to some of the policies they actually had going in France at the time. But yeah, I don't know if Tom and Alex are supposed to be Muslims, but the others definitely are.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And plus they were eating people, not pork, so.
Yeah, I guess they probably were. It didn't occur to me that they would be in that first meal, but I guess they would, because that's what they have most of. I mean, they have pigs and they have people.
Oh, yeah.
They have both. Maybe it's a mix of both. Who knows?
They have pigs and long pig.
But yeah, maybe the fact that like they show Tom eat and Farid not, maybe they are making the point that like Farid didn't realize it, but he kept himself from eating a person, where Tom actually did engage in cannibalism without knowing. Because that's one of the things they like to do in cannibalism movies too. Have the good normal people like either be forced into it or be tricked into it.
Yeah. That's always a fun trick to play on people.
That's not it's true. It's even true to real life. Cannibals, the very tiny percentage of cannibals that exist in our society, who are usually like crazy serial killers, they love, and it's also Hannibal Lecter too, they love feeding people to other people. It's like Hannibal Lecter's favorite thing. Now I realize he's not real, but I mean, again, it is based on some reality there. But that's like Hannibal Lecter's favorite thing to do. Like that's his favorite idea of a good night, is like not the killing, not this or that. It's having a dinner party and serving it to all the high society types. That's what he likes best.
And feeding Ray Liotta back to himself.
Oh, man. That's a movie that I kind of have a love-hate relationship with.
Yeah, me too.
Same thing with the book. It's kind of like what you expect. In like that Thomas Harris wrote Red Dragon. Then years later, he thought, I can do something. I can use the Lecter character a little more, and I'm going to do another book. And he wrote Silence of the Lambs. Huge book, massive success to the point that they make a movie out of it, even though they had already made a movie about Red Dragon called Manhunter, which was a pretty good movie, but not like a big phenomenon or anything like that. But anyway, that's a big phenomenon. So by the time the Silence of the Lambs movie has come out, like Thomas Harris, boom, huge name, huge books, people buying up the books, to the point where he had no plans to write any more books in that world with those characters. The publishers basically made him write Hannibal because they basically said, if you don't write it, we'll get somebody else to. Because I don't know, I guess they could do that. So you can tell like his heart really wasn't in Hannibal, but he is a really good writer. So it's still a very good book to read. It's very interesting. But yeah, I don't know. The movie's kind of the same way in like that the movie has a different ending than the book. But both are kind of equally stupid to me. Because in the book, she does run away with Hannibal and kind of becomes like his lover. And in the movie, Hannibal is in a position to like chop her hand off, but instead chooses to chop off his own hand so that she can go get away, which seems sort of out of character. I don't know. The movie is still a well-made movie. I think, isn't it Ridley Scott? You know, you can see the detail and stuff. So it is a good movie to watch. It's interesting. And the scenes with Hannibal and the Italian cop are very arresting. I really like those scenes where they're playing their little cat and mouse thing where, you know, the cop is trying to catch him and he pretty much being Hannibal, he knows right onto it. And of course, Gary Oldman in one of his crazy roles as Mason Verger, who's all deformed and stuff from what he did.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I mean, he brings a lot of flair to the character. And it's one of the times where I'm of two minds. The way he dies in the movie is not the way he dies in the book, but it is really cool how they do it, where it's a point where just like, where it's right at, they're in the place where the pigs are supposed to, you know, he had this great death signed up for him. Once again, we have got pigs brought into it, where the idea was he's going to have Hannibal fed to these pigs. He'd slowly be eaten alive by the pigs. And anyway, Clarice Starling busts in and rescues him. And they're in the place. So Verger in his wheelchair or whatever is up on the platform above, and he's got his manservant Mandel. And in the movie, Hannibal actually persuades Mandel to just dump him down to get eaten by the pigs. He says, "You could always tell him it was me." And it is kind of a fitting death because he is sort of he's a monster. He's a different, like Hannibal's a monster, but Verger's a monster in his own way too. And now he's getting like the death that he so enthusiastically prepared for Hannibal. He's getting it, and it's kind of fitting that Mandel delivers it to him. Now I realize in the movie there's not a lot of screen time, and I even saw, I think, who was it? The Nostalgia Critic said something like why did Mandel decide to do that? But I'm like, well, you're not really thinking. Like Mandel is aware of every like depravity and atrocity that this guy has committed. Like he has helped him facilitate it. You know, like part of it was like, what was it like before he got maimed by Hannibal? He used to like sexually molest kids, but in the years since he was physically unable to do it. And it really proved that he's like, there are levels again, you know, when I talk about like, it's, you know, you shouldn't molest children. It's pretty bad. But then you have, you know, the people that like, they're so messed up. They think it's an act of love, blah, blah, blah. But like the guy idea with Verger is he knows it's bad and damaging to them. And he loves it to the point that once he gets to the part where he can't physically do anything, he reverts to emotionally abusing them. And he loves it. There's a whole part where he like tortures this kid saying that like, they're going to take away his cat and make him live with and put him in an orphanage and all this stuff. He's just a horrible, wretched piece of shit human being. But anyway, I'm babbling. In the book, his death is quite spectacular. It's actually his sister, Margot, that kills him. And she kills him by like taking one of his like crazy like moray eels. Like there's a whole thing where he's got like these disgusting, terrifying eels. And she like takes one and like jams it up his ass and then takes a taser and jams that up his ass too and like electrocutes him with the eel and stuff. I don't know, it's crazy. So I realize how that would be difficult to do in a movie. So again, I kind of like both equally in a way. I don't know. I don't really like the movie. I don't really like the book, but they both have things going for them that I like. And this is an unpopular opinion. I like that actress more as the character than Jodie Foster. Julianne Moore. Really? I like Julianne Moore more.
Wow.
Like if I could, I would take Julianne Moore and stick her in Silence of the Lambs. And by the way, I think Silence of the Lambs is great. It's not like I think, Jodie Foster drags it down. No, Jodie Foster's really good. I just think she would be even better. Like this is not me saying, oh, Jodie Foster's not good in Silence of the Lambs. She's very good. I think everybody is good in Silence of the Lambs. It's one of those movies where everything's going right. But just the way I think of the character and picture the character is closer to Julianne Moore. That's all I mean. It's not a comment on Foster's performance. It's a great performance. Julianne Moore is just physically and the way she talks and looks and stuff is more the way I think of the character. It's not a huge deal. It's too bad. What's funny is the whole reason Jodie Foster wasn't in Hannibal was because she thought it was dumb. She was kind of on like Thomas Harris's side. She's like, we shouldn't make a sequel. And if we're going to make a sequel, it shouldn't be this. This is not a good story. And then that's why she walked out on it. And I mean, good for her.
Well, it almost would, taint her performance in the other film if it, I don't know. I think it got pretty good critical reception anyway, but, had it not, it may kind of, take away the performance in the original film.
Yeah. It's one movie where I'm entertained by the things I'm seeing, but I'm not particularly into the story. Is kind of how it works. Because I mean, it's a really sumptuous looking film. There's it's over in Rome for part of it. You've got some really great cinematography as you would expect in a film by Ridley Scott, and it has good actors. But just the story itself is somewhat off and just not satisfying.
Yeah, it's definitely my least favorite of the group. It's better than what is it?
It's better than Hannibal Rising. Hannibal Rising, which is I've read the book too. I've got it right over there. Which is again another example of like origin stories we don't want. People who watch our shows and stuff know I hate it. I especially hate villain origin stories. It's one of my problems with the Joker movie, which we won't talk about. It's like I don't want these cool villains given these origin stories to explain them. It's dumb. And in the case of Hannibal, it's terrible. It's like, oh, okay, so during World War II, these shitty people, took advantage of his family and cannibalized his little sister, and so he turned into some sort of weird serial killer avenger. I don't know.
Like Dexter.
Yeah, except like with a samurai angle. And I love samurai stuff, but I mean, it's just stupid. He's got like
I forgot about all that.
Yeah, he's got like this Japanese aunt that like teaches him all this samurai shit, and he has like a weird like psychosexual relationship with her, and and she seems to actually approve of cannibalism too, and it's so dumb. The book is dumb, the movie's dumb. It's easily the worst. And once again, it's another example of Harris did not want to write the novel, and they kind of made him. And you could say, well, Harris didn't have to. You're right, but then somebody else would have. So I understand why he did it. But unlike Hannibal, which I can still enjoy on some level, I can't enjoy that book or movie. I have the book, but I probably won't read it again because it's crap.
He's dead, right?
Thomas Harris? No. In fact, he just wrote a book a few years ago, and I hear it's really dumb. It's something really weird. It's like about some person that's like some sort of like maid, or I don't know, maybe it's a man or a butler or something in like some sort of like crazy. It's like in the house of like some South American drug lord or something, and I don't know. It just came out pretty recently, and it was a big deal because Thomas Harris only writes a book like once every like fucking 12 years. And he's like me, like, except he's talented, in that like he's not a Stephen King. He even says like he finds writing to be a very difficult and unpleasant slog. Like every word extracted like bothers him, and I'm the same way. That's why I'm such a shitty writer in so many ways. Like I never have a moment, even when I'm in a zone. It's not fun. I don't sit there typing away going, it's like pure agony, every paragraph that's wrenched out of me. It's really difficult. I'm not trying to be a bitch about it, but I'm just saying, for people who aren't writers, just try then. Okay, just try. See how easy it is, and you'll find it's not easy at all, man. And I don't mean how easy is it writing something good. I just mean writing, period. Go home, write something that's 30,000 words, and get back to me. And tell me how fun it was and how easy it came to you. And actually, it has to be coherent, though. You can't just write blah, blah, blah. But so that's one of the reasons why, even though Thomas Harris doesn't have a great output, I really like him because he seems more like me. And like he's not just like some crazy font where the stories just flow out of him like a fountain, where he has to really dig down and work. But anyway, I hear this book is really stupid.
Stephen King's like an enigma, so.
Stephen King baffles me, and he upsets me in a way too, because I'm like, it's not fair. Like, it's almost like he has like almost a compulsion. It's more like he has to do it. I wish I had that. But yeah, for me, I've made the metaphor or whatever before. It's like I think of those people; they're like a fountain. For me, it's very much like the whole thing of being a sculptor. There's the stone, I have to chip away to get it out, and blah blah blah. But Thomas Harris, he understands a bit of it. But, what the hell is his latest book? I never read Black Sunday, which is, I think, his first book. So yeah, it's called Kari Mora. And it came out this year. It's called Kari Mora, and I hear it's like ridiculous. Like not good at all. But it has like, I don't know, it's something to do with like, actually I think it's not just some drug lord. I think it's like a real person. It might be like Noriega or something like that. Something like that. Yeah. Fellow novelist Stephen King remarked that if writing is sometimes tedious for other authors, to Harris it is like writhing on the floor in agonies of frustration, because for Harris the very act of writing is kind of torment. That's funny. That's kind of how it is for me too. I don't want to go that far, but I just mean it. I don't know. Even when things are going good, it takes a lot of discipline to make it work, and it's not fun at all. It's only fun when it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I've tried to like get better at writing short stuff, because then it's more achievable. But I'm just so bad.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at short stuff. I'm too wordy. I'm way too wordy, and I realize I don't know. I like long setups and backstories and stuff sometimes, but yeah, it would be in my best interest to try to write a couple tight, simple short stories. Try to get on that. But anyway, I see Thomas Harris and that his output is very spaced out, and he's 79 years old now.
Wow.
But I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. But he's only written like 6 full novels since the 70s. Since the 70s, Stephen King has written what, like 50 novels? Not to mention all the other shit.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point, like, just in, like, the late 90s, where he was thinking, at the output I'm writing, not what he's writing, but with the Dark Tower series, he's like, I'm on pace to, like, finish this when I'm, like, 150 years old. Which means I'll be dead, obviously, and I won't be able to do it. So I have to finish this. And then he just fucking did. Oh, and while he did it, he just wrote a whole bunch of other books at the same time, too. Like, what the hell, Stephen King? Because, yeah, he'd already written, like, since the early 80s or late 70s or whatever, these books. And then he got into the late 90s. He's like, I still have, like, 3 books left. And they're all going to be really big and long. And at the pace I'm going, I'll never get it done. I have to do it. And then, boom, he just fucking does it. By 2003, done. Done. And he doesn't even slow down, and he just keeps writing all this other stuff, too. Good for you, Stephen King.
Yeah, he wrote Sleepwalkers. It's a good one.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because that's not a novel.
That's like the only thing that was not a novel, right?
I mean, it was written to be a movie. Yeah, it was the only thing that was written as a screenplay. Rose Red or whatever is something similar too. Like Rose Red was written like as a miniseries or whatever the fuck it was supposed to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like there's no like book of Rose Red you can get, but just must as well because it's goddamn terrible. I rented that years ago and got like an hour and a half in, which is pretty far, but like just nothing happens. It's just a whole bunch of nothing. It's people like, it's like a group of people like slowly going from one room to the next with a bunch of inane conversations in between with nothing happening. Like, my God.
It's boring.
It's so boring. But that's the thing about Stephen King. Like, his output is so crazy that like he has so many great classic novels and he has so many good novels, but he also has terrible stuff too. But it doesn't matter because he's just got all that other stuff in his back pocket. I mean, if he'd only written, like, he'd be famous if he'd only written The Dark Tower. Oh yeah, but he also wrote, Carrie, and The Shining, and The Green Mile. Yeah. Hell,
list goes on and on.
He'd be famous if like he wasn't a novelist and like just like the short story he wrote became the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems a little unfair. Anyway, that's how it goes. It's not, and again, I don't want to make it sound like, it's also easy for Stephen King. He doesn't work hard. I know he works hard, but it's a different process. It definitely is. Plus, when you get that prolific, you just have all the confidence in the world. As an unpublished author, like, you just second guess everything you write. You're like, is this good? Is this any good? Will this ever get anywhere? And Stephen King has become such a name that, now he can write complete garbage and it still gets published. And people still buy it. Yeah. And some people even still convince them it's good because it's Stephen King. Yeah. So that's a level that very few authors get to, of course.
Did you ever read Dr. Sleep?
No, the movie's out now.
Yeah.
I have no interest in reading Dr. Sleep because I've never been a fan of The Shining.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not putting on the pile of bad books, like I've said. I don't think The Shining's a bad book. It's just one that never appealed to me, and the movie never meant much to me either. I mean, I get, Jack Nicholson, blah, 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 but it's never been important to me. The ones that are important to me are The Stand, It, and what's it called?
Pet Sematary?
Salem's Lot. Those are the big three. I like, and then there's a bunch that I do like. I like Misery. I like Pet Sematary, and then of course I like a lot of his short story stuff too. I've enjoyed a lot of his novels. But again, I don't need to see, like, I don't think, Desperation has to be a movie. Like, yeah, Night Shift. That's his first short story collection, and probably still the best, I think. Now, I haven't read 100% of everything, but I still think Night Shift is the best. Has the best to offer.
Yeah, I just happen to have this right next to my bed here.
There we go. This is a newer copy.
This was apparently released after The Mangler. Now, it includes The Mangler, now a major motion picture, which, didn't that movie, like, fail horribly?
Yep. Yeah. No, this is a fairly newish copy. This is maybe 2016 or something like that. I had an older copy. In the case of Stephen King, I had quite a few older copies that I upgraded over the years. I'm a book person, so I'm very fussy about it. Some people, they don't care what they have, but I'm very fussy, especially about covers. Sometimes there'll be a book that I want, like, let's say it's a classic book that's been in print forever. If the current, I just won't buy it if I don't like the cover. I'll wait. I'll say, I'll wait for a reprint when you get a better cover going. I'll go with, like, I'm going to read Tropic of Cancer. That's always been a good book. Then I'll go to the bookstore and, like, this is the current cover? No. And then I just won't buy it. Yeah. Because I know there'll be another one to come along. And, I've already blabbed over this before. People are sick of hearing. But it's my big thing is when there are a series of books, they release them too quickly. I want my series to all fit together. And they never do because I can't buy the books fast enough. Whether it's Harry Potter, like Harry Potter or whatever like that. All my series, none of them are uniform. They are always different ones, and I hate it. It drives me nuts.
Oh, speaking of that, my daughter actually just started reading the Harry Potter series.
They're really good books.
So she's excited to go through all those.
I'm sure she'll enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's always the same thing when you got something that's super popular, But I mean, they're good books. It's a well-imagined world. It's good storytelling. Obviously there are things you could pick on it for, but there's no reason because, I mean, let's not overthink it. Well, I'm not, and again, I think anybody of any age can read books, but I just mean the target age is basically, less, probably 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Again, any age, but I just mean, so they're not written the same way like a more adult book would be written. So there's no point in coming down too hard on some of those other things. I mean, I write stuff specifically for an age group too.
Right.
But no, they're really good books. I mean, I was on to them from the start because of my sister. I think obviously the books were a big deal, period, because that's how you got movies made out of them. But most of the people I knew didn't really know Harry Potter until the first movie came out in 2001.
Yeah.
But by that time, I'd already read 4 books. You know, I read the first Harry Potter in 1998, which is only a year after it came out. The first Harry Potter came out in 97. And by 98, I was reading the first one. So I was not quite a kid. I was about 15 when I started reading Harry Potter. So I was a little bit older, but it didn't matter to me. And as you know, just like with the movies, you know, the first book is not that long and it's not that dark. But as they go, they get longer and more serious and complicated and dark. And I'm not happy with the ending. I don't like how the end book ends. I feel like a lot of stuff is done. But no, they're good books, good characters, a fun world. Well, you know, I think it deserves the success it's had.
Yeah, I mean, I think when the movies came out, I think that's when a lot of people started reading the books.
Oh yeah, I mean that's how it works with a lot of series, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not like that's never happened to me. There's probably been times where I've read a book after seeing the movie, for sure. So I know I can be one of those people that's smarmy about it. It's like, I read the book first, but not 100% of the time.
I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me with a graphic novel that I've liked the show or whatever, or movie that they based it on, and going back. Watchmen was not one though. I'd actually read Watchmen before the movie came out.
Yeah,
that was one my good friend had turned me on to. He was into all that stuff, so he always told me what the good stuff was. So
that's pretty cool.
I didn't have to waste my time, and plus he let me borrow it. So
yeah.
Yeah,
they keep releasing newer editions of Watchmen. I saw one the other day that I really liked. I was like, you own the Absolute Edition. You don't need any other ones, because I actually have the app. I only own two DC Absolute Editions. One is Watchmen and the other is The Dark Knight Returns. So I'm like, it doesn't matter how many more versions of Watchmen they release. You have the best one. So stop being an idiot about it. It's like, no, I'm going to go spend $45 for a slightly different version. No. But that happens to me all the time.
It's a hardcover, right?
Yeah, they have a new line called like DC Classics or DC Masterpieces or something, and that's like the first one that came out. They always have new lines of stuff. But there's a few that I like that have come out, like the newest version of The Long Halloween. I always want to buy that. I'm like, you already own it, but I'm like, this one looks better. Stuff like that happens. But the Watchmen show, that's something.
Yeah, man. I still haven't had a chance to watch any of it yet. But
I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know. Like, it doesn't seem to me like it has anything to do with Watchmen. Like, it might as well just be a show set in its own world. Then I could just ignore it and whatever. But it's Watchmen. It's supposed to be in that world. And uses some, it mentions some of the characters and some of the things, and even brings some concepts that were brought up later past the original Watchmen. For instance, there's a DC Watchmen thing called Doomsday Clock, which is basically a sequel to Watchmen, but also crossing over with the main DC universe. So like Superman and people are involved. That has been very, very slowly. We're 11 issues in of 12. There's only one issue to go. But anyway, so we all know that Watchmen takes place in 1985. So when you're in the other world, the Watchmen world, before you cross over to the DC world, it's 1992. And in 1992, it is mentioned in the comic written by Jeff Johns that at this point, Nixon is no longer president after he served like 4 whatever terms or however long. Like, Nixon's been president from like the early 70s into the late 80s. But at this point, Robert Redford is now president. That's in the show. In the show, Robert Redford is president. So that's something, I guess.
Played by Robert Redford, I hope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't think he's shown up yet. There's 2 episodes out so far. I don't think he's shown up yet, but he's going to be in it.
God, he's like in his 80s, right?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. And that's the other thing I don't get. Like, is it supposed to be in step with the comic thing? Are they saying he's been president since 92? Like, I don't know. Because that's the other thing. I thought, like, what year is this going to be? As far as I can tell, it's in 2019, which really fucks things up. I don't know. I really don't get it. I don't get it at all, what they're doing. Maybe I need to see more to pull the lens back. But so I've watched 2 episodes, and it's not enjoyable or interesting. And the concepts they're doing, I don't like at all. And I don't know. Like, so here's the thing. Like, so in the world of Watchmen, the idea was it's kind of like the other superhero worlds, except it's much more toned down and realistic in that there are people that fight crime, vigilantes or superheroes, but nobody has powers. The only one that has powers is Dr. Manhattan. Everybody else is a regular human that since around the time of the late 30s has been a tradition for certain people to put on masks and fight crime. In this world, as far as I can tell, those people don't exist. But now cops do it. It's really weird. The idea is cops wear masks. Like, cops are official. Like, it's official. They're police. They're on the payroll. They are police. They have real authority. But their identities are kept secret, so they wear masks. It's really weird. But some of them wear different masks than other ones. Like, you'll see cops, and they're just like ordinary cops, and they'll have like a big yellow scarf over their face. Fine, the cops have masks. But then you have other cops that have different masks, and I don't understand why. Like, there's a guy that does like interrogations, and he's really old and stupid, but he has like a weird silver mask he puts on, and I don't know what purpose it serves. They have a Russian guy with a really shitty red mask for no reason. I don't understand what his purpose is, and it's a really bizarre world they set up. And
yeah, I remember seeing that in the trailer.
And there's this whole thing about like there's this like racist terrorist organization that for some reason wear Rorschach masks. I don't know why. I don't know what the hell they would have to do with Rorschach. Nothing, actually. Nothing at all. But because yeah, you see that in the trailer too, them like putting the masks on and chanting and stuff. Well, their whole thing is they're super racist. Like, I thought it was like they were like anarchists trying to overthrow society. No, they're just a bunch of fucking racists. Like, the show is really about racism, a lot of it. It actually opens with it opens with, it's kind of neat that they're showing it because it's one of those things that the U.S. has barely acknowledged. Is the I think it was 1921, the Tulsa massacre, which is the worst instance of racial violence in the history of the country. And yet for decades, nobody even talked about it. Nobody acknowledged it, nothing. And I mean, it is kind of cool to see it actually recreated on screen. Just the madness that went on there. Just like black people just being mowed down. And to extreme lengths. Like, there's like, I even looked it up just to be sure, but it is true because there's a part where it shows like, you know, all the people are in the street and they're getting shot and they're running and hiding. Suddenly like a plane comes flying down and starts mowing them down. That fucking happened. I checked. I looked it up. There were actually people that went to like the airfield, got in planes, and came back to blow everybody. Can you imagine Americans murdering other Americans with aircraft? Like, I knew about the massacre. You know, I knew about it. I'd read some stuff, but I didn't know quite the details. So I specifically looked it up. Yes, they actually did kill people with fucking planes. It's crazy. So anyway, that's obviously some sort of big backdrop to this in some way. I think somebody who lived through it, who's like over 100, is in there, and somebody's related. I don't want to give stuff away, but that's a big backdrop to it. I don't know, but 2 episodes in, there's no way you can explain it or understand it. So I'll stick with it, but I am in no way enjoying it. I think it's weird and disconnected, and it does not feel like Watchmen at all. I wish it was just its own thing, and I don't understand it's supposed to be Watchmen, but they have stuff like references to like squid monsters and Dr. Manhattan. They talk about him being on Mars. Adrian Veidt, they mention, they say like in a newspaper article that he died or something. I don't know. But none of the characters have anything to do with any of the Watchmen characters, as far as I can tell. And there's been no references to the comedian, no happy smiley face button, which is weird because that's like the ultimate symbol of Watchmen. I thought they'd thrown that in our face in the first episode. Not yet. I'm sure it'll show up at some point. But yeah, this is one where, yeah, you'll just have to watch for yourself. But I find it really odd. Really, really odd. Like, I don't know. I understand taking something and trying a new direction, but this is beyond me. I can't fathom it. So it's kind of worth watching just because it's so baffling, I guess.
Yeah.
I would definitely say watch it. You should watch it because I'd like to know what the hell you would think of it because it's so odd.
Yeah, I told you the only reason I want to see it is only because it's HBO. Like, I have faith in them, so.
Well, I mean, obviously it looks good and everything, and clearly has a good budget and stuff. Like, so I mean, the presentation is fine, as you would expect from an HBO show. But I don't know. I was hoping it would just have some sort of feel. It just doesn't feel like Watchmen in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't feel even tacitly related to Watchmen. But I don't know. I'll stick with it because I'm just super curious about what the hell they're going to do. But I'm not enjoying it. I'm not enjoying it at all. But anyway.
Yeah, it's so you have the Ultimate Edition. Is that the one you have?
Of the comic? I have the Absolute Edition, so
I was just looking at it.
Those are like the big, as far as I know, unless DC's replaced them for years. Those are like the biggest, best things you get in DC, and only the biggest, most important things got Absolute Editions. They're not just hardcover. They're oversized. They're bigger than the normal comic, so it's blown up a bit. They come in a case full of extras, all this stuff. But yeah, no, there's a brand new version that just came out. Part of some new line. I don't know what it's called. It's called like DC Classic.
DC Modern Classics.
There it is, DC Modern Classics.
Yeah, I'm looking at these, man. I could spend a lot of money on these.
Yeah. And I also just have the completely normal for years. The first version of Watchmen I owned was kind of the ordinary trade paperback. So I still have that. I've got the trade paperback too.
Yeah, that's what I read originally.
Yeah, same here. That's what I read back my last year of high school, I think. Sometime around 2000, 2001, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's when I read it too.
I'd been aware of it for a few years and just kind of like not paying attention because I was thinking about other things. But, I was getting into comics a little more seriously at the time. Yeah. And Watchmen was a name that had come up, but I didn't know what it meant or anything at the time. I didn't really know. Because at this point, I'd read comics on and off through the 90s, but not in any serious way.
Yeah.
And it was mostly like Batman here, Spider-Man there. 2003 was the year when I became a serious comic person. And I really got into it.
I pretty much stopped from like the mid 90s through the early 2000s, completely. So all this stuff had come out that I hadn't ever heard of that I had to catch up on.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff came out during that period of time.
Mm-hmm. Particularly for DC, it's interesting. Like I always used to think like Marvel was ahead of the curve in many ways until like the mid 80s. Through the mid 80s into the 90s, DC was the much more daring company. They were willing to do riskier things. And it feels like we've kind of stagnated in the last 20 years. In that DC, which used to be bold and introducing all these cool things, all they've done lately is kind of this sort of stuff, which is a bunch of spin-offs and remakes and relaunches and stuff. Because I was thinking about how, like, continuity, how I praise Marvel because I think Marvel does a better job of continuity. But there were at least some things DC was willing to do that Marvel wasn't. And that was move time forward for some characters. Because, it's a floating timeline. You can't age your characters too much. And it was just the other day I was reading some sort of article about DC's approach to the movies and how the Joker movie, which I don't think is a good movie, but they say at least that. But I do agree with the article's point, which is if DC is going to do more movies, they should take sort of the approach they took with Joker. Again, everybody knows I hate Joker, but I understand what they mean. Because what they were trying to do with the other DC movies was do them the way the Marvel movies were. And you can't do it. They've got different characters. They've got different things. You shouldn't do it. You should do your own thing like you used to. But I was thinking, but it pointed out in this article, 2 comics that I own. Now, I don't own them as the comics, but I own them as part of, famous runs. I didn't even think about it. They were released in the same month. So Teen Titans number, I don't remember what it was, or New Teen Titans. It was 1983. I have it. It's part of, I have it in the trade paperback of the most famous of the classic Teen Titans stories, which is the storyline called the Judas Contract, which is the storyline about how Terra infiltrates the team and gets them all captured by, Deathstroke. Because during this is when, just before this, Dick Grayson hasn't quit the Titans, but he says he's not going to be Robin anymore. And then the first issue where he comes back as Nightwing. So that's October 83. I didn't realize it was the same month that like Alan Moore wrote, I think, his first or second issue of Swamp Thing, one of the best single comics ever written, called The Anatomy Lesson, where he basically does what he would define his career later on, but for the first time, where he takes an established comic with an established character and completely changes everything about it to suit what his story needs. Because for those who don't remember, with Swamp Thing, the story always was, I'll do this very quickly, that what was his name? Holland, whatever his name was. Professor Alec Holland. Holland was, a scientist working on some sort of thing in the swamp. Terrorists attack him with a bomb. the bomb blows him up, and his body flies into the swamp, and then he like bonds with the swamp and comes back. This is weird Swamp Thing, and a lot of the comics about him trying to he has memories of his life as Alec Holland, but it's all very fuzzy, and he's trying to like reclaim his humanity. Blah blah. What Alan Moore does is they have like Arcane's forces shoot him down, and they think they killed him. Of course, you can't kill him with bullets, and they have his body, and they get a fairly obscure DC character at the time, what's his name, the Floronic Man, Jason Woodrow, who was sort of like a plant man guy. They got him to do the autopsy, and in doing the autopsy, he realizes right away that like this thing is just a weird plant thing, and the revelation comes is that he's not Alec Holland. He's a completely separate entity that basically absorbed some of Holland's consciousness or memories when Holland's body flew into the swamp. So the idea is Holland is dead. Swamp Thing isn't Holland. He never was Holland, and he can't be Holland anyway. So those both came out in the same month, and they were different from Marvel because they were both big changes that wouldn't be undone. Because you can do changes in all sorts of like especially superhero type books, but they don't last. You eventually revert them back. But the thing was, at the time, Dick Grayson had been Robin in real life for 45 fucking years. And then they were like, no, you're Nightwing now. And that never went back, which is probably for the good. And that was the type of thing Marvel was not willing to do with most things. I mean, think about things that have changed in the Marvel universe, and it's almost right back at the beginning. Okay, yes, Peter Parker was a high school student. He graduated high school and went on to college. What else happened? Mr. Fantastic married the Invisible Girl, and she changed her name to the Invisible Woman, and they had a kid. So that's another change. But most of the time, other things don't really move forward. But in DC, they were willing to do that. But anyway, I'm being long-winded again to make a simple point, which is in the 80s and parts of the 90s at least, like DC was pretty cutting edge, and that's how you had like Vertigo and all this stuff. But that all has ended and imploded. And now DC is kind of going back to just doing sort of the classic same old stuff. They tried the New 52 back in 2011, which had a bump in sales and then went right back down. And then a few years later, when they undid it, it made everybody really happy. Everybody was so happy that the New 52 was done when they did the DC Rebirth. Even somebody like me, who's not an old school DC fan, I just felt so much better when it was over. I was like, yes, bring back the old. I don't know. Even though that does fuck up some things. Like, how does Damian exist in this timeline? We don't have time for my comic nonsense about that. But the other point is, when you think of some of those landmark comic things, particularly the DC did, it's like, it was all so long ago. Where are the new ones? I'm not saying where's the new Watchmen, but I mean, Watchmen, and of course the Neil Gaiman Sandman series, all this stuff, like there's nothing that's come out in the last few years that rivals that, which is really too bad. It's not like I think comics have stagnated. There's all sorts of great stuff, and the main thing you'll hear from anybody that's in the comics industry or even just a fan like myself is there's really good stuff if you can find it, but it's just buried under all this other stuff. It's hard. Nowadays in a comic store, you go in, you're going to get pretty overwhelmed pretty fucking quick.
Yeah,
even I do sometimes, and I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. I'm trying to get on board with some actually safe, familiar titles for going to the new year. One is, I know that in 2015, when Disney bought Marvel, one of the things they did was, and Star Wars or whatever. Yeah, they already had Marvel. When they got Star Wars, they made so that meant all the new Star Wars comics would be Marvel, and they'd be Disney, and they would be officially canon. All the stuff that was the early Marvel stuff from the 80s, and then all the later stuff that was done by Dark Horse, that's all Legends now. That doesn't fit into continuity of the movies. But everything from 2015 on, under the Marvel Disney logo, that's all 100% canon. And what they did they had various series, but the one just called Star Wars, continuity-wise, it picks up right after A New Hope. So for the last almost 4 years, we've had over 70 issues since New Hope. And what's going to happen in January is they're finally going to catch up to Empire Strikes Back, and they're going to relaunch it a new #1, starting with, obviously, the aftermath of Empire Strikes Back. So I'm going to start collecting that when that comes out. I have been getting the other series in hardcovers. This is the third volume, Jason Aaron's end. But yeah, it's going to end with issue 75. So counting what I own, basically the first 36 issues in hardcover. I don't own anything, but I'm thinking when they relaunch in January, I'm actually going to collect that comic like as a comic. It's been pretty good. Not everything about it is great. The Darth Vader series was actually really good. I have that in hardcover. So
yeah.
That was a really, really good series, mostly by Kieran Gillen, who's a really good writer. He had some things in it that I don't think were great. Like, I think he's much more amused by the concept of like an evil R2-D2 and C-3PO than we are, but he loves it so much that he just has to do it. So fine, I can accept it. But apart from that, I think it was a really strong series. I'd like to get the rest of the other series, which is set because that Darth Vader one is set at the same time as the Star Wars one. After New Hope, it's supposed to run aside. But then there was another one that ran for 25 issues called Darth Vader: Lord of the Sith, and it was set right after the prequel trilogy. It's set like right after his big no at the end. It picks up directly after that at the end of Revenge of the Sith. And it's funny, they actually make that big no bearable in the comic form. The way they do it, they make it, they kind of salvage it. You just have to see how they do it. It makes it a lot better. But it's pretty cool because it shows like how he goes on a quest to get his red lightsaber, because it's one of those things you never thought about. Well, he has a lightsaber, but the whole idea is like only Sith use red ones, and you have to do something special to get a red one. And the other thing is, even though they just finished wiping out most of the Jedi, and one of the things that they had a very public showing of like melting down and taking away all the lightsabers, is like, the Emperor's not going to give him one because Siths don't give stuff. You can only take. So he had to go find another Jedi to kill and take his lightsaber, so then he could take it to this planet to turn it red. It's all really cool. I really liked it. So I have the first bit of that. I don't have all of it, but I'll finish it. But anyway, and the other ongoing thing that I just jumped onto is that IDW just started a new continuity for Transformers. So I've been collecting that.
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't like it that much so far, but hopefully it'll pick up. That's another one that, again, it was years ago. The IDW's Transformers started way back at the end of 2005, and it ran all the way to 2018. So I'm sure people know there's a lot of different Transformers out there, whether it's a show or it's a comic. Mm-hmm. There's a million of them. But the IDW comic is by far the biggest and longest. And I have a lot of it, but there's just so much that it's one of those things where I wish I could have gone back in time and been collecting it at the time, because I really like it. Yeah. Anyway, I don't like this one as much. It's kind of interesting. So like the way the other one starts is kind of like concurrent to what we were used to from the cartoon and the original Marvel comic, which was, the war between the Autobots and Decepticons has already been going on for a few million years. And now we're going to pick up sort of in present time and what's going on Earth is kind of how it goes. What makes the IDW one a little different is like Earth is only a small part of it. The idea is there's also wars going on all sorts of other planets, all these proxy wars. But anyway, this one is actually not starting like this one. This one is starting before the war, where everybody's living together in Cybertron like they're friends. So I'm like 13 issues in and no war is broken out yet, but there's tension. So it's not too bad. But it's also all full of all these new characters, specifically a lot of female characters, which makes it much different from the other ones too, because there was only a handful. I think they invented a lot of female characters specifically for this continuity. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, so those are two of my ones going forward into the new year, and I realize they're not bold or anything. They're two properties that have been around forever and have a million different iterations. They're not going to blow your mind, but I like them, so that'll be fun. As far as new groundbreaking stuff, well, I'll keep an eye open for it. Anyway, I'm sure I bored everybody to tears with all my comic nonsense, but I just feel like before we did this movie, there was only so much we could say about it, so we had to pad this out with some other extra talk. Yeah. I mean, I do like the movie. I understand what it's memorable for having some very strong visceral violence. I think it has good gore effects, especially the whole thing with the bandsaw or whatever it is going through him. There's also a good exploding head part. That's how Carl dies when what's her name? Yeah, Yaz gets Carl catches her on the elevator, and it seems like she might have a good chance of getting away because he has a super long gun, which is not a very practical gun if you're trying to get somebody in an elevator, right? But anyway, but still, he's got her. It's like he's going to kill her or take her back or whatever he's going to do. But then he gets it took me by surprise. His head explodes because Eva shoots him with a shotgun. So that's a pretty good effect too.
Yeah, you get the neck ripping of who's it, Claudia? The neck.
Yeah. You mean after the explosion?
Yeah, she like bites a chunk out of her neck.
Oh no, it's the other one she bites. Yeah. So what happens is, so after that, the last two that are left are the two women, Claudia and Giselle, or not Giselle, Gilbert. So then she has like a weird shootout with them in the barn, and then she takes them out by shooting was like a propane tank or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool is you get to see the aftermath. Is like she doesn't actually get burned. She gets hit. Is that Claudia just gets hit by a bunch of shrapnel. She watches up, and it's pretty cool. You hear like Claudia like choking on her own blood, and her face is all full of glass and shrapnel. But then you find out when she steps outside that how can I forget her name 2 seconds later? Oh my God, Gilbert actually avoided the explosion, is still alive. And yeah, that's what happens. She jumps on her and like tears her throat out with her teeth. Yeah. Again, showing just how savage she's become, just trying to survive.
Yeah.
It's another one of those movies where you really wonder about the aftermath too. Because she has 2 times to escape, and then at the end, okay, now all the enemies are totally dead. All that's left is her and Eva. And Eva still refuses to come with her. She says, I have to take care of the children. And I mean, I get it. There's no point in arguing with her, but part of you would just want to say, you do realize I'm sending like a legion of cops back here, because there's like so many missing persons and bodies here that have to be told. But then again, maybe she doesn't do that because she's a criminal herself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't
know.
Then
she escapes and gets arrested.
Yeah. Which is pretty much a relief at that point.
Yeah.
But again, you do really wonder about the aftermath. So she's going to get arrested for wanting to be questioned for what happened at the hospital, and they could maybe even trace that back and find out she was involved in the robbery. Okay, but considering she's like covered in blood and all this, they might have some extra questions for her that would be very difficult for her to answer. So who knows where this whole thing goes? But at some point, you think the cops are going to have to come upon that property and find like all those like frozen hanging bodies and the aftermath of the carnage and stuff. So you wonder exactly what Ava's going to be able to do. I guess she can go into hiding underground with the kids.
I don't rarely say this, but I think this actually warranted a sequel to show that what you're talking about. Like it could be like The Descent and pick up exactly where it left off.
Except who are the bad guys at this point, though?
The children in the mines.
Yeah, I guess. Ava could go down there, but she says she's interacted with them, so I guess they wouldn't like rip her apart. They must recognize her as somebody that's nice to her. So yeah, she could go down. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you could have like the cops showing up on the property and eventually making their way underground, and maybe starting to get picked off. Because even though Eva's a good guy, technically, she could see the cops as a threat to the kids, or maybe So yeah, you could see something like that working, possibly. Try to invent a few more characters to throw into the mix in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a sequel is workable.
Just because I want to see more of what's down in the mines, you know.
Yeah, that's where I thought was really lacking too, and I was really hoping there'd be like a longer sequence of Farid running around in the mines, getting chased by the kids and stuff, and that doesn't happen, and that really did disappoint me. He just shows up in the room and they turn the steam on. I'm thinking he's gonna get out of this, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the part where the movie kind of let me down, because just like you, I wanted to see more of that.
So what did you think of it overall?
I'm starting to appreciate it a little more than when I initially watched it. When I initially watched it, I didn't think there was really that much to separate it from other stuff of the era. This is the same era as Hostel and Saw and stuff. But I mean, I think it's better than both of those probably. Although the first Saw is not a bad movie at all. I might shit on the Saw series, but the first movie is quite interesting.
Yeah, I don't care for. I don't think I've seen Hostel 2, but I don't like the first one.
No, I've only seen the first one too. It's funny. I remember I was reading about like that the other day, and like, who's the guy that did Hostel? What's his name?
Eli Roth.
Eli Roth. And it's mentioned that like, so the first movie takes place, I think, in Slovakia, right? They're actually in Slovakia where they're getting tortured. And it's been pointed out that it's supposed to be Slovakia, but the characters are actually speaking Czech, which they would not be, because Czech and Slovak are two separate languages. They live together, used to be in Czechoslovakia, but still. And what Eli Roth smugly said was, like, he said that was on purpose, and it was to highlight America's ignorance of, like, other countries. Like, do you believe that? I'm like, it was your own fucking ignorance. Don't try to say, oh, I'm screwing with the American public who don't even know anything about Slovakia. Oh, I'm sure many people that went to see the movie didn't know much about Slovakia. But still, I don't believe for a second that he was, like, trolling the audience going, I made them speak the wrong language because I know you fucks wouldn't know the difference. Like, I don't think you're that.
How would I know the difference unless I took that language or, tried to learn it or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure they're really similar.
Yeah. Because somebody like me, I know a lot about Slovaks and Czechoslovakia, especially because of hockey, right? I know a lot of Slovakian players in Czech, and I remember when they used to be one country and stuff. But at the same time, you're right. If I watch the movie, I'm not going to be like, oh, they're speaking Czech, not Slovakian. I don't think that makes me some ignorant hick. But yeah.
But it's not like between French and German, it's pretty drastic.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's a stupid mistake to make if you're making the film. And it just sounds like... It just sounds, I'm just saying, he's just trying to make it sound like, oh, it was intentional, blah, blah, blah. It's some sort of commentary on blah, 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 blah. Like, fuck off.
I mean, sure. I mean, I think of myself as a relatively intelligent person, but I'm not going to know the difference at all.
Yeah. But I mean, the main thing as an intelligent person you would take away is, like, we realize that, like, Eastern Europe is not some sort of, like, savage land of of atrocities, which it seems to be, like, really what the Hossa movies is selling, right? It's like, look at these poor Americans, now they're in the wrong part of Europe, and look what happens to them. So much xenophobic stuff in the 2000s. Again, maybe it's part of the post 9/11 type world.
Yeah.
I mean, even movies that I don't really mind. Like, I'm not going to go on a big crusade and say, oh, Taken is offensive. But Taken is kind of, lazy. And it does kind of make it seem like if you're an American girl and you get off the plane in France, you're opening yourself up to, like, a whole world of, like, terrible European brutality. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's weird. It's like what we said about, like, how that Rambo movie right now, people are, like, annoyed because I guess he's fighting against Mexican guys. Because it's always a thing, like, well, it's just a thing of location, right? I guess it depends on how you handle it. It's like saying that, like, Resident Evil 5 is racist because it takes place in Africa, so a lot of the people you're shooting are black. You're a white character shooting black characters. But yeah,
I've heard people say that.
But, it's not some... And I get if you're some fucking racist, you can get some sick thrill out of it. But, I mean, for most of us, it's just another game. It happens to be set in Africa, so you're fighting against them. Besides, they're Africans, but they're Africans that have been turned into weird zombie creatures, so, there's always that level of it, too. It's like saying, like, Live and Let Die is James Bond basically fighting a bunch of black people. Well, that's because he's in Haiti or whatever, Yeah. It's not like James Bond is there representing the white race. But yeah, some of these movies are problematic.
That's a different race. The enemy is a different race.
Yeah. Yeah, you can always make that argument, but I just mean most of the time it's just because of location. But I do think in some movies like Taken and stuff, I mean, they're just trying to tell a story. They're not saying this is really Europe, this is the real world. So I don't take it too seriously, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, that stuff does exist.
And it's not like there is sex trafficking, and a lot of it does take place through various European countries and stuff. So not like there isn't any over here. So I don't know.
She gets off the plane and, like, immediately gets taken.
Which is pretty funny. She just steps foot out of the airport, and then, that's the end of her.
Where was she? I don't even remember what country that was.
It was, like, in Paris.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
At least I didn't see the other Takens, but the first one, it's in Paris. Which is a really nice city. Although, if you watch Irreversible, you think it's, like, the worst city in the planet.
Yeah, don't go to Paris unless you want to get raped.
Yeah. I will say this about something about ignorance. Is I remember a couple years ago, I'd watched District 13, which is a pretty good French action movie. They made an American remake with Paul Walker called Brick Mansions. But they made two District 13s, and they're both pretty good. and they're full of like parkour and stuff, and fighting and stuff. And I was reading like a message board, something like that, and I assume the poster was probably American, and they were like shocked by the diversity of Paris. Like they were freaked. They had no idea that there were like black people in Paris speaking French. Like they didn't know that. Like, because the whole part, there's a bunch of criminals and a lot of them are black and stuff like that. Like, it felt odd to them to see like black people speaking French. Unless like, well, they live in Paris. Why wouldn't they speak French? But apparently this was news to some of these people. Like, they had no idea that like racial diversity existed in other countries.
That's you must not have seen very many French films either.
Yeah. Because obviously, Paris is a big city. It's full of different races. And yes, they speak French because it's France. That's what you do in France.
That's one of the most popular cities on earth. Of course, it's going to have a diverse population.
Yeah. But anyway, those are both fun movies if you haven't seen them.
I have.
District 30. And the Brick Mansions remake, actually, there's two main characters. Paul Walker replaces one of them, but the other is played by the same guy from the original movies. And what's really weird is he speaks English fine, but he's for the movie they dubbed his lines, and it makes it look really clunky and stupid because they were worried about his accent. Like, come on! I saw the guy in interviews. Yes, he has a French accent, but it's not like super heavy. You can understand him fine. But yeah, the studio overdubbed his lines, which is really annoying. But anyway, obviously the remake's not bad, but obviously the other two are better. But they're just full of fun action scenes. It's fairly parkour based. There's some cool like parkour chase scenes and stuff. The guy, his name's David something. He's really good, and I mean he was quite a bit older for the remake too, and he could still move like crazy. He must have been in his 40s, and he could still move like he was amazing.
Brick Mansions. That's the one they released after Paul Walker was dead, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, he was still alive and well at this point.
Okay.
Paul Walker died in what, like 2017 or something? Was it? Anyway, I'm pretty sure Brick Mansions was 2013, if I had to guess. But yeah. But the original's called District 13, and the other one's called District 13B or something like that. But they're both cool. They're about sort of like a military. Well, in the original, it's like there's like a militarized zone in Paris, or like it's cut off by the military. It's basically there's this whole section that's like basically cut off from the rest of the city that's run by criminals, and like you have to go through checkpoints to get in and out of it. And he has to go like get stop guys who are gonna like blow something up. Kind of the typical plot. It's like, oh, bad guys have like a bomb, they're gonna blow shit up or something. But they're good movies. They've got good solid action in them.
Yeah, he died in 2013, and that was released in 2014. So.
Oh, he did die in 2013. Man, I didn't know it was that long ago.
So Brick Mansions and then Furious 7 came out.
Yeah, I knew Furious. Okay, so I was wrong. Man, I thought he died a couple years after that was released. Wow.
It's been dead for a while now. Wow.
Yeah. Like for me, I was thinking it was maybe 2 or 3 years tops, but you're right.
Well, it's hard for me.
Rest in peace, Paul Walker.
Yeah. If you take anything out of this show, take that.
Whenever we talk about him, I feel guilty because I used to always criticize him as an actor. I mean, I'm sure he was a nice guy.
He was good in Tammy and the T-Rex.
Never saw that.
You're not missing much.
He's in movies I like still. Like he's in what's it called? Well, no, not Wrong Turn. The truck one. Yeah, Joyride. I think Joyride's a really great movie.
Oh yeah, he did a lot of good stuff. He did Running Scared, which I like a lot.
Yeah, I only saw parts of that. That was one I wanted to see all of. It doesn't have like Russian gangsters in it and stuff.
Yeah, I would watch that if you haven't seen it. It's really good.
Let's see it.
It's got like more sex trafficking. There's some of that in there.
Yeah,
and children particularly.
Interesting. But yeah, he's done some stuff I'm okay with. But yeah, I've just always felt like his acting is not very good. But anyway, point now.
Subpar. It's like with attractive women. When your looks are that good, your acting doesn't have to be the best.
Yeah, and I mean some of it. I've said this before. I focus on like the fact that he's in like one of the worst adaptations I've ever seen, which is the Timeline movie, which I think if you want to talk about a movie that shits all over the book, that's right at the top of my list. Like, Jesus. And his character is so changed and so annoying, and I hate him so. And he's just in there, like, for what you said, sort of like to pretty things up, to give us, like, a good-looking guy that we can sort of root for and relate to. Even though in the movie, and actually in the book, he's mentioned to be quite attractive, because the whole point is he's like kind of like a ladies' man, like he's been like seducing various girls, but he's still an academic. The whole point is they're all academics, but it's just like they throw him in, they add a useless connection, they make him the son of like the main professor, and they make him separate from the academics. He even goes out of his way to like make fun of them. He's like, I don't know why you guys like history so much. It's stupid. I only like what's the future. I don't know. He just says a bunch of bullshit. I mean, you can just get it's like for test groups. It's like, there, I can relate to that guy. He's not some fucking bookworm dick. You know? But man, so part of that is like I have animosity towards him for that role, which is not entirely his fault. You know, he got cast in the movie, he played the role. He didn't write the fucking thing. I get it. Anyway, it's very sad that he died when he did.
Yeah.
But that remake he's in is fairly solid. You know, when you're talking about an American remake of a foreign movie, you know, so many of them are pointless or crappy. And it is kind of pointless in a way, but it's at least quality-wise pretty good. But I mean, it follows the plot and everything so closely. It's just like, why even bother? It's just so you can have people speaking English, more or less.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of those unnecessary remakes.
Yeah. But I don't know. It was good for me because it made me aware of the originals. Because I'm pretty sure I heard of Brick Mansions first, so it served that purpose, I suppose. Although maybe I would have found these movies the other way. But yeah, anyway, I recommend them. They're fun movies, fun action romps, as you might say. With some fairly good stunt work, which is one of the reasons why they stand out for somebody like me. Is like I like stunts that are like not too over the top. Because if they're impossible, I don't like them. That's why I like a lot of martial arts movies. Because you're seeing somebody do things that can actually be done. And that's why I don't like certain... And again, it all depends. Because obviously I like, you know, some of the Marvel movies where people are doing things you couldn't really do. But, you know, they're superheroes, so I accept it. But I like a martial arts movie or something like that where people are doing things that, you know, you get to see. Like, people are really... Maybe they can't do exactly what's in the movie. But, you know, real talent is behind what we're seeing. Not just a bunch of camera tricks or CGI or whatever. So that's another thing I like about Brick Mansions is, you know, a lot of the stunt work is just good, solid stunt work, you know, talented people pulling off cool stuff and it not being so crazy that it's all green screen or whatever.
Right.
But as far as new French Extremity goes, I guess Frontiers doesn't stand out as particularly interesting. You know, if you want to go like full gore, you can go even further than this movie. Like Inside basically paints the walls of that house with everybody's guts by the time it's over.
Yeah.
And it also, yeah. So I figure we're going to do one more of these, and maybe it'll be something like Inside, because I want to do one that's really twisted.
Yeah.
This one, even though this one has like crazy violence and cannibalism and stuff, it's still kind of straightforward in a way, you know. So maybe we'll close with one that's a little more warped.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of Inside, but I know we had a few more on the list we can discuss.
Yeah.
And,
but as far as this one goes, I like it. I don't think it has a lot of rewatchability, but
yeah, I agree.
But if you're the type of person that's into a lot of these sorts of movies that have this kind of stuff happens, it's a worthy one to add to the list.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a interesting subject matter, but yeah, like you said, the rewatchability is really not there. It's really more of a checklist type film.
Yeah. As far as the political statement, you don't need it. It's there if you're interested, but it's not going to affect anything. But you know, it's kind of par for the course. We're used to that sort of thing. You know, sometimes a movie will come out and we'll have some extreme things, and then like the director will say, "Well, probably the best example I can think of is the movie I'll never watch because there's no point. Is like, what is it, a Serbian film? Because all that shit that happens in a Serbian film, the director says, well, like, it's a commentary on the society here. Well, you know, okay, sure it is.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a romp.
That's a romp, yeah. I don't have much interest in seeing it. It's just one of those, completely shock value movies, which is again one of the things we try to talk about here with this French Extremity, like how much of it is beyond shock value. Does it have any other redeeming qualities? I think the movies we've done so far do have redeeming qualities beyond shock value. I have to say, the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of appreciating the obscure one, Demon Lover. There's just something I just kind of like its style. It has sort of a cool, slick. I don't know. It has a style that I really appreciate, and I like the performances by the actors in it. This one, there's nothing wrong with any of the performances, but you're not going to really remember it or think too much about it. It's
right.
They did what the role called for, which was not really much, which is run around and scream and be afraid and be desperate and fight back, and that's all well and good, but not much beyond that. But it's a worthy movie.
Yeah, it's one people usually reach for when they're talking about this French Extremity. It's one that always comes up. It's usually, high tension, Irreverse Hob, this film, and maybe like Calavaire, I think maybe the name of it is. The one from Belgium. Yeah, I think that's the name of it. But that's usually like the big ones that come up as the most popular of that time. And those are all, they're all decent. They're not my favorites of the I don't know, subgenre, whatever you want to call it.
Right. And if you like, some of those classic slasher type things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this movie is interesting to watch. It's fairly obvious the stuff that they lifted from it. They put their own little spin on it, and it's fine. It can't have the same impact as something like that, especially not by 2007, but it has its moments.
Yeah, Nazi cannibals is really the selling point.
Yeah. But like you, I feel like they undersold the deformed children in the mines. Should have been more of that. All I saw was like some weird, like glowing eyes or something for a few seconds, and heard some scrabbling. Like I would have liked to have seen them attack somebody or drag a body away or something. Yeah, I thought there was going to be more with Farid down there with them. I felt like that's a part where the movie is lacking, that it could have done some more with that. And as you said, it leaves some possibilities for a sequel, although I'm sure there's no talk of any sequel over a decade after the movie came out. But stranger things have happened, I suppose.
Yeah, they did one of Descent. I know I brought that up earlier, but they did it quite a few years after the first one, and picks up right when it lets off. Yeah. I forget which ending they went with. They did a different ending for the U.S. release.
Yeah, I saw both. I have like a DVD of it that played both endings.
I don't remember which one was the original. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I did not like the sequel to The Descent, though. I thought The Descent was okay, and I thought the sequel was bad, but
Yeah, I used to like that film a lot. I think just because of as soon as you get to see the creatures, I think it's really like startling. The first time you see them in the background, like I was like, "Oh shit, I'm on board." But it took a long time to get there. Like there was a lot of like, I don't know, whatever the opposite of bromance is for ladies.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, between them and talking about their various relationships with each other. And I get how it becomes important later on, but I don't know. They could have sped it up a little bit.
It's like 45 minutes of that, and I'm fine with that. But in a hour and a half film, it's really.
I feel like that movie got a little bit overrated at the time just because it had an all-female cast. Like I was like, I don't see why it's a big deal. I'm like,
that didn't even cross my mind. I guess that's how unsexist I am.
I suppose. I don't see why it would make any difference. Like, it's fine.
God damn it.
There are a bunch of girls who are friends, and there's no guys. Yeah, okay, that makes an amazing movie. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking, like, where's the guy? There should be a guy in this. There should be a dude.
Who's gonna help him?
Yeah, they don't have enough testosterone.
Yeah.
I was trying to look up some of the actors from this movie, but no, they're not really in anything.
Yeah, I saw the same.
What's funny is the girl that plays Eva is actually quite pretty, but you can't really tell in the movie because of the way they have her done up.
She's done up like a little girl, right? Kind of has like a little girl type vibe.
Yeah, and well, it's not even that. I mean, I'm probably sick enough to still find that attractive in some way. It's just the way she's like hunched over and screwing up her face and stuff. Because they put the other one too. They put them both in like weird old timey little girl style dresses and stuff. But her name is Maud Forche, but she hasn't been in much or anything. But fairly pretty picture there.
Maud.
Yeah.
Well, she's done a decent amount of stuff.
TV mostly, and she did and then she's done some shorts, but not much when it comes to feature length films. Anyway, yeah, I was just clicking on some of the actors, seeing if they'd done other stuff, but not really. And as for the director himself, I know the name Xavier Jeans, but
yeah.
This is probably the only reason I love his picture on Wikipedia. Do you see his picture? Look at his eyebrows. Whoa, I got something weird. Oh, there it goes. Getting some weird sound on your end.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right. We looked at. I remember we talked about him before. I was saying that when we looked him up on one of the other shows, that he did some movie, some sci-fi movie called Cold Skin. That looks really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on Shudder, I believe.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I saw it. It's decent.
Yeah, I love his picture. It's great. Oh yeah, we looked at him. He was one of the directors that contributed to the ABCs of Death. He did an American movie. He did the Hitman movie, the one based on the video games. Never saw it. Never played the games.
It is what it is. It's
not a fan of Timothy Olyphant at all. I find him very off-putting. Which, I mean, works in a way because he often plays off-putting characters. It's like they realize he's got a strength for it.
Yeah.
But when I say I don't like him, it's more I don't like... You know, it has nothing to do with him as a person. I'm sure he's fine. I just mean like on screen, you know. And I don't know. He's in a ton of stuff. He's been around a long time. And he's in some movies I like. He's in Go.
Oh, yeah. It's probably one of his first films there.
Yeah.
Well, he was in one of the Scream movies, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was one of the killers in the third one.
Yeah.
That's funny. It doesn't show it here. It doesn't show that on his Wikipedia page, but he's in Scream 3. It's not even on here.
That's weird.
That's funny. And it's not like that's some little independent movie. I'm positive that's him.
He was in, yeah, I'm pretty sure as well.
Anyway, why did I even bring up Tim Olyphant?
He was in one of the damn Die Hard movies.
Yeah. You know, I never thought that one from 2007, which is the one he's in, it's called Live Free or Die Hard. I don't think that's a bad movie. I just don't think it's proper to be a Die Hard movie. Like, if that was just some standalone action movie with Bruce Willis playing some other character, I'd be 100% fine with it. I just don't like that actually is, like, supposed to be John McClane. It just doesn't feel right to me. But that movie's fine. Like, I'm okay with it. I just wish it wasn't Die Hard. It doesn't feel like Die Hard to me. But yeah, he's the bad guy in that. Justin Long.
I've got to figure out what the hell, who was in Scream 3 then?
Hitman. That's why I brought him up. Because Xavier Jeans directed Hitman. Okay, I was like, why am I even talking about Timothy Olyphant? That's got to be him. Yeah.
What was the character's name? Do you remember? You've seen
Mickey. His character's name was Mickey. Oh no, that's why it's Scream 2, not Scream 3.
Okay.
He's in Scream 2. God, I'm stupid. Yeah, because Scream 3, that's sorry, I was mixing things up. He's in Scream 2, which I'm sure it does show on his page. I was just looking in the wrong place. Because, yeah, Scream 3, yeah. I'm an idiot. I know those movies so well, you'd think I'd remember. Apparently not. But yeah, he's Mickey in Scream 2, one of the killers, the other killer being Billy's mom. But yeah, he's looking past 2000, because that's when Scream 3 came out. But Scream 2 is what, like 97? Yeah, Scream 2. Yeah, there he is, Scream 2. So I'm like, it's so weird that it doesn't show Scream 3 on his filmography. Well, because he's not in Scream 3. Okay.
He was in Dreamcatcher?
I don't even remember. There's a Stephen King movie you'd like to forget. I mean, it's a batshit crazy book. It's got shit weasels, for God's sakes. Like, they use that term.
Yep.
It's one of those movies that seems like a pretty good setup and then just goes off the rails.
Yeah, I liked like the first 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, same here. I was into it. And then it just gets so ridiculous. And I hate all the government stuff, and they've got like and of course, just the way they would sometimes shoehorn why can't I think of anybody's names? Morgan Freeman into movies. Like, sometimes, like, that was a big thing to do in the 2000s too. It's like Morgan Freeman was kind of a big thing now, and they would just shove him into movies where he shouldn't be in them. And that was one of them, I thought.
Morgan Freeman and Tom Sizemore.
Tom Sizemore too? I believe you.
No, I mean he was in that.
Oh, Tom Sizemore was in the movie. Yeah. I don't remember. I know that Jason Lee was in the movie.
Yeah, once Jason Lee dies, that's when I turn it off.
Yeah, he was the best part.
Yeah. What does he say? He has a bunch of like stupid catchphrases.
Yeah, I don't even remember. You know, I kind of, as stupid as it is, I kind of want to watch it again now. Just because I want to remember it again.
Yeah.
It's another one of those ones where Stephen King is using his like quasi-offensive trope of like taking like the mentally challenged and like turning them into like weird mystical figures. It's like it was fine in The Stand. Sure. Yeah. Okay, Tom, M-O-O-N spells moon. He's got like a weird connection. That's all well and good. But when you keep like going back to that well and putting it in movies over and over again, it's like, okay, Stephen King. I don't know if that's in great taste.
Donnie Wahlberg in his greatest performance.
What is the greatest Donnie Wahlberg performance? So many good ones.
He was in the one I just saw the other day with the doll. James Wan.
Yeah, Dead Silence. He's the cop with the mustache,
who's constantly shaving with an electric razor. That's his like character.
Character quirk.
Character, whatever the like quirk or whatever.
Yeah. That's what you do when you give characters that don't have much screen time for development. It's like, here, give them something that'll add their personality.
Like, I know what works. Make him shave every like 5 minutes. Like, is that something people do?
Well, remember Bill Duke in Predator, constantly shaving?
God, man, you talk about something that irritates your skin is doing that shit.
And he was always completely clean shaven. Yeah. He was just dragging a razor across his bare skin the whole time. I can't believe I remember Bill Duke's name for once. I always just called him the sad-faced black man. He always looks so sad. So sad. He's got these deep, sad, soulful eyes.
Yeah.
I don't care who he's playing. He's just his eyes just lock onto you, and you're just like, oh my God, I see the depths of your soul.
The sad black man, aka
Bill Duke.
He was in that Mandy. I hadn't seen anything in it forever.
Was he in Mandy? I don't even remember.
Yeah, he was.
I watched Mandy twice, and I don't remember.
He goes over to his like trailer, and that's where he gets a lot of
he's the guy that helps him get his weapons. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. We talked about this before. Neither of us was impressed by Mandy. Like, I liked the spirit of it. I liked what they were trying to do, but it didn't come together. It didn't come together for me. Like, I thought it was cool. It was kind of like a modern take on like the Conan myth. Mm-hmm. It had some of that, but no, it didn't come together for me.
Well, I just don't get people going crazy over it. Like, they're like, best movie of the year. And
I don't know.
It was very low budget, and it showed.
Mm.
Like, I'm normally not the kind of person that slams a film for a low budget, but
my main issue with the film was the way they tried to decide to pace it. It goes backwards. He dispatches the most dangerous enemies first, and then makes his way towards the less dangerous people, and then has like a showdown with like a completely non-threatening guy. Like, you're not supposed to do it that way. Yeah. You're supposed to work your way up to get to the most threatening person.
Just want to see a montage of Nick Cage making a sword.
Yeah.
Neon purple lights all over the place.
Yep.
But
yeah, like I said, I appreciate the spirit of it. It's like a weird, like, Northwestern logger take on Conan, which is interesting, but it just doesn't come together. I don't care. And that cult turns out to be very boring and by the numbers, really. Like, I thought like there'd be something more out of it, but no, he's just sort of like a completely by the numbers, typical cult leader type guy. Like,
yeah.
Why did they come obsessed with this middle-aged woman? That seems like a weird thing for a cult to focus on. I'm not trying to be ageist here and say once a woman reaches a certain age, she doesn't. I'm just saying, when you got an insane cult, you'd think they would go for the younger, prettier ones.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. And yet he becomes obsessed with this woman. Anyway, no time for that crap.
Slim pickings.
I have no desire to rewatch it. I watched it twice just in case I missed something. Just in case I wasn't getting it. I watched it twice.
I did the same thing.
I watched it twice in like 2 or 3 days, and like,
I watched it
both times. I was like,
man, he's the fucking best. You know, a lot of people we know in the horror community.
Yeah, sure.
Saying how great it was. So
I know Pezzo liked it. I don't know.
So I'll watch it again, see if I missed something. Same thing I did too.
Like, I think it's just like it was a big deal to people that like Nick Cage was in like some sort of weird revenge movie. But like, he's done that before. He's done everything. There isn't anything Nick Cage hasn't done.
Yeah. That was the novelty, was that it was Nick Cage being crazy, and it's Nick Cage being crazy. I mean, so you know.
It didn't even need to be him. Like I said, there's only like one scene where that's really great classic Cage. It's the part where he's like having his weird emotional breakdown, and he's like sitting on the toilet in his underwear, and he's like, "They tore my shirt," and his like voice totally cracks on shirt. He's like, "Shirt" or something. I'm like, that's some good Cage right there. But I mean, that's not going to save the movie.
I mean, he's gotten almost to like Christopher Walken level where he's playing himself, you know, like you're playing Christopher Walken. I mean, Nick Cage in this film.
Yeah.
You know, crazy, you know, ridiculous Cage.
Yeah. I mean, I get that's what works for him. It's easy to forget. Like, it's like a lot of people like Walken's. Like, it's easy to forget, or it's easy if you're younger and haven't seen older stuff to realize he was a pretty good actor back in the day. Could actually give like a realistic, arresting performance, not just over the top craziness, which is enjoyable. And I'm not saying he shouldn't do it. I'm just saying
he's a legit actor who can do like a range of things. Like, he's really good at comedy.
Yeah, he is pretty good at comedy.
Like Leaving Las Vegas and Raising Arizona, those are both funny movies that he's in, and you know, he's funny in them.
What is it? Wild at Heart.
Like, even stuff like 8mm, I like, you know.
I don't like it no longer. And I just recently rewatched that a few months ago because I hadn't seen it in 100 years, and I still don't like it.
I haven't seen it in a long time either.
That's one of those movies that like Roger Ebert like champions said like it's way better than people think it is, and blah blah.
Really?
Blah. Yeah.
It's about smut. Come on, you know me. I love smut. Or wait, no, not smut.
Oh, guess what?
Snuff.
I probably should have told you a few nights ago. My favorite movie was on TMC, and I recorded it, so I'm really excited to watch it again. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. I got it recorded.
Oh, that's a good one.
That'll be a good time to watch. I haven't seen a Russ Meyer movie in like a decade. As we talked about before, like that used to be my late nights. Like that would come on like Showcase or Bravo or something.
Yeah. Now
that doesn't exist anymore. It's funny, like nowadays TV, you could say shows way more than it used to and stuff, but in a way it shows less. You know, nighttime used to mean like you got to see, you know, the more adult stuff, but now nighttime is meaningless. It's the same as any time of the day.
Yeah.
The only thing that changes slightly is like if you watch like I guess like Teletoon or Adult Swim or whatever like that. Like the programming gets a little more adult at nighttime than in the daytime, but that's just cartoons. Like it's nothing else.
I mean, as a kid, you know, it made a big difference. Like the programming.
Yeah.
You know, once you hit a certain time on Saturday morning, The cartoons were gone, and it turned into like whatever the hell comes after that. Whatever garbage adult programming comes on.
Yeah.
So and then
Saturday, there's no such thing as Saturday morning cartoons anymore. That ended sometime in the mid 2000s.
And
every generation, romances and remembers their youth in probably too much of a positive way. We have our nostalgia blinders and stuff on, but still, I mean, these are facts. These aren't just opinions of ours. It's fact that when we were growing up, there were things like that, and now there aren't. And now you could have an opinion and say that it wasn't better. I'm like, wasn't it? I don't know.
I mean, I think it made you appreciate things better.
Yeah, as we said, it's great that we can stream stuff and stuff, but it was cool to be able to anticipate stuff and wait for it and watch it at a designated time. Go
and pick it out, spend your time picking out what you want to watch, and then you got to watch it in a set period of time as it's due back, and it's only on at this time. There's no way to record it.
Yeah. I'm glad that I can record stuff. I can watch stuff at any hour of the day. But there was a sort of I won't go too far. I won't romanticize it to the point and say magic. There wasn't magic, but there was something special about, like you said, waking up early on a Saturday to watch all the cartoons, or staying up past when you're supposed to be awake, past your bedtime to watch adult stuff. Like that doesn't really exist now. Now kids can just watch adult stuff by going click.
I mean, who knows what things are going to be like in the future. So kids that are kids now, when they're adults, and maybe like, I remember when we didn't have things installed in our brains.
I know. I mean, that's how it always goes. Because true. I mean, compared to previous generations, we had a lot of stuff. Our parents didn't have video games. We still have video games. We had primitive video games when we were kids, little kids, but they were still around, and VCRs were around. And obviously for our parents, they weren't. It's funny even though it's a few years older, we'll watch it. I don't even think I watched it last year, but one of my favorite, A Christmas Story. My mom likes to watch A Christmas Story with me because so much of the stuff they show is stuff she remembers from growing up. Now, that movie's a little older than her, but technology didn't move as fast as it did though, so they still had a lot of that same stuff. That movie's supposed to be like the late 40s. My mom grew up as a little kid in the 50s, but they still had that. They still had that stuff, and she liked pointing that out.
Yeah, like seeing the toys in the shop window and stuff.
Yeah, and the snowsuits the kids wore where they could barely move and stuff like that. I mean, I can even remember a little of that in the 80s, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. What is it now? What do people wear now?
Well, little kids still wear stuff kind of like that. It's funny. Like, I always laugh at people over bundling for like mild winters we have these days. Speaking of which, I'm sure people aren't sick of hearing me bitch about how like global warming has like changed the seasons here and annoyed the fuck out of me. And then like I'm wearing my nice Halloween Jack hoodie. It's way too warm for it. I'm sweating like crazy. Tomorrow's Halloween, and it's going to be super warm. It's going to rain, but it's going to be really, really warm. And the day after, for the first day of November, it's going to be even warmer. Like unheard of temperatures for November when I was growing up. So I'm really upset at global warming because it's ruined my autumn. Because now the leaves change and everything, but there's no crisp, cool air. It's all, ugh. I'm tired of this bland warmth that I've been feeling since August. It won't go away. And my mom was saying to me today, she's like, well, it's soon enough it'll be winter and it's cold. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't fix it. It could be minus fucking 50 in January. It doesn't change the fact that my fall is now like this warm, bland thing instead of a real season. I liked growing up and experiencing seasons. And it's funny, all the stores and stuff are having their fall sales. I can't wear any of the clothes I want. I want to wear my plaid. I want to wear my hoodie. I want to wear this and that. And if I go out, I'll sweat to death. Now, certain people, they'll just wear it anyway. But I'm not that type of person. I'm too uncomfortable. I'm so uncomfortable. So, yeah, I don't know how much I'll be out tomorrow in the rain. Well, actually, I have to go to the library. I'm at the library tomorrow. And I'd like to wear this again to show some Halloween spirit, but I'm going to sweat my ass off doing it.
And it's just a hoodie.
It's just a hoodie.
It's not like it's a winter coat.
Yeah. But, yeah, I always... I don't know. It's not all foreigners either. Some of it's foreigners, of course. They come over here and they got the big winter coats on, like the second summer's over, and that's fine. And some of them they're not used to it, but there's plenty of people that are native Canadians that do kind of the same thing too. That I feel like they just wake up and if the sun's not shining, they assume that means it's cold. I'm like, how stupid are you? I mean, this is Halifax. The sun doesn't shine most of the time, but it doesn't mean it's always freezing. I don't know. What other people wear, of course, is none of my business. I don't care. But sometimes it is really baffling. And sometimes I honestly feel societal pressure. It's annoying. Mm-hmm. Like there'll be days and I don't even talk about now, like I'll say in the summer when it's supposed to be warm, like it'll be cloudy. So everybody's out wearing like jeans and long sleeves. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'll be the one idiot in shorts and a t-shirt because at least it'll be comfortable. But it bothers me. I don't like being the only person in shorts. I feel stupid. I shouldn't have to be. Anyway, yeah. So same, I bitched all September about it being warm. Same thing all October. And by the time things finally cool down in November, who cares? Everything will be dead. There'll be no leaves, no pretty leaves. Everything's dead. Like, who cares? So they're like, happy now? No, I'm not happy now. I've been cheated of my favorite season. I love fall, but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right at all. I don't know. Maybe in my lifetime we can get things moving backwards. I don't know enough about the climate change stuff, but I'm really hoping. People say that we can fix things and stop things, so I really hope so. I don't know. It's hard, though.
I've seen some pretty disturbing stuff out there, so I don't know if it's reversible or not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we can slow things down, but is it fixed? Like, can we, get, like, I don't know. I feel like this is my life now. It's always going to be super warm in October. I'm going to be cursing the sky, saying, when I was a kid, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I'm going to take this off right now, actually. God, talking about it's just really made me hot. But we can finish up anyway.
Okay.
So this was Frontiers from 2007. I think we got one more to go in this series before we go on and break into some new territory. I don't know really what else to say. It's a good movie for sort of a thriller type thing. We've seen it before where people show up in a situation they think is normal, then it turns out it's crazy and people are trying to kill them. You have the Nazi angle, the cannibal angle. So some of that stuff, as we said, we think the whole mutated or deformed children in the dark wasn't used enough. We could have used some more of that. It's not particularly anything that you would think about for Halloween beyond having some gore in it. Tomorrow's Halloween, so I'll try to watch a bunch of horror movies, see what I can do. I always wait too long. I always think, it's too soon. The next thing I know, it's too. The next thing I know, it's over. And of course, tomorrow, and for part of the evening tomorrow, I'm at the library, so I really have to plan around that movie-wise, I suppose.
I'm just going to do what I normally do and just continue watching horror movies for the next week or so.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not like I'm just going to turn it right off.
I've got a lot of stuff on my list I need to check out that I haven't gotten to. I've watched a lot of newer films.
That's good.
More than I normally do, and some have been okay. So,
well, I watched for newer. I watched that Hell House LLC, or whatever it's called. As far as found footage horror movies, which people have endlessly heard me bitch about, it's not. It's a pretty good one, I guess. I can't stand the whole ending because it's like most endings where the camera's zipping around. You don't know what the hell's happening. But I do like the setup and the story. What's funny is they made 2 sequels, but I couldn't find the second one. So I watched the third one. The third one is really odd. It has a really different feel and does a kind of a weird retcon to the first one. So I don't know. But maybe the second one's good. I just haven't been able to find it. But the other 2 should both be on Shudder, I think. Or maybe they're both on Prime, something like that. Or one's on Prime, one's on Shudder. I don't know. I can't keep it track.
I think the third one's on Shudder.
Yeah. But yeah, the third one's called Lake of Fire. It's I don't know. It's weird. It just has a really odd feel.
Second one is The Abandoned Hotel.
Yeah. But what's funny is the third one is full of flashbacks, but it pretty much almost completely ignores the second one. And it shows almost nothing from the second one. Almost all the flashback stuff is from the first, which is really odd. It does have a little flashback from the second one because I could tell because it was characters I didn't recognize, but not very much. And the retcon stuff I was talking about doesn't seem to affect the second one. It just affects the first one. So it's weird. But I don't know. As far as newer stuff, that's something I watched. And I don't know. It's kind of open-minded of me because usually I slam the door shut on more found footage horror because I got so sick of it. And I was never a fan of it anyway. People name the best ones. I don't like them.
Yeah.
Like the absolute best ones. Like the only one I can think I like is Wreck. I like Wreck.
Looks like the first and the second are both on Shudder.
I'll see if I can find the second one on Shudder then, just for the sake of completion.
Right.
But,
I watched Haunt, also on Shudder. I don't know why we keep talking about Shudder so much, but they've actually put some stuff up that I enjoy lately.
That's good.
Haunt was really good. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
If anybody's wondering ideally what I will do for Halloween is I will watch The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, Garfield's Halloween Adventure, Halloween's 1 and 2 back to back, and Trick or Treat. Those are the ones. Those are the essential ones for me. I usually try to fit them. If there's time for anything else, maybe like Halloween 4 or something, maybe, but I don't know. But those are the ones I try to get in every year.
Yeah, I need to watch Halloween 4 and 5 again. I don't know, man. After watching like Resurrection and shit, I really just am not in the mood for those films at all.
Yeah, I didn't have to go through that, luckily. It's funny, like I always hear people shitting on 5, and I'm not defending 5, but I honestly, as somebody who's a big fan of the series, it's my favorite slasher series, I don't see a big difference between 4 and 5. They feel very similar. And yet, if you talk to a lot of people, they say 4 is one of the best ones and 5 is one of the worst ones. I feel they're both just sort of meh in the middle. And they're almost the same plot twice. It's just the same thing done again with basically 5 is just 4 again in the exact same place with whatever characters didn't die in 4, with a few more added in to pad the numbers. Now, it is true, 5, yes, everybody says the mask looks bad. Yes, the mask looks bad in 5. But apart from that, and 5 plus is the start of the Thorn stuff, which is, I guess, why some other people don't like it. But I don't know. At the time, it's just some black man in black takes him away, and we don't know what the hell's going on. So within the context of just one movie, it's not so bad. But it's funny, 6 is like the ultimate example of a movie that does so many things that should piss me off and doesn't. I love 6, and it's so problematic, and it's so messed up, and it does so many things, and none of it bothers me the way it should. And 6 also ensures that Jamie Lloyd has the most depressing character arc of any character in any movie ever. Like, holy God. Like 4 and 5 are pretty hard on her, but by the time 6 is over and she's dead, what a life she's had. She
died pretty quickly too.
Oh, she dies right at the start of 6.
Yeah, and it's not even Danielle Harris.
Well, no, she couldn't have aged enough in the time, I don't think.
Oh, really? Was it that soon after? I thought they didn't want to pay her the money.
Well, I mean, wouldn't she only been in like 14 or something at the time?
I don't know. I don't know the timeline of when they were released.
Oh, well, I'm pretty sure Halloween 5 is 89, and Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, is 95. So I don't think she would have been old enough to fit the timeline the way they did it, because she's supposed to be like 20 or 19 or something.
95?
I'm pretty sure it's 95.
Yeah, you're right. You got both those dates right.
I usually do.
It would have been 7 years or 6 years after.
Yeah, so I don't think that would have been old enough.
Oh, no, she's...
Anyway, considering they kill her right away, I don't think it's really important that it would have been Danielle Harris. I mean, if there's a lot you can complain about for that movie, and I would not argue with you. I wouldn't argue and say, well, Danielle Harris isn't even in it, because, I mean, she gets killed right away. Who cares? If you wanted Danielle Harris to be in it, then you would have to have it matter, and have the plot be different, and have her running around. But no, she gets killed instantly. As I said, showing that she's got a really bad character arc. Anyway, those are the movies I'll try to squeeze in tomorrow. And
she would have been 18.
Okay, maybe then, yeah, because, I mean, the character was supposed to be roughly about that age, so I don't know. I guess it could have worked. What, they didn't want to pay her? I don't know, who cares?
Yeah, they didn't want to pay her. They
had Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
They didn't even know the diamond in the rough they had at the time.
Huh? Diamond in the Rudd.
Man, that was a missed opportunity. The diamond in the Rudd. I'm going to call him that from now on.
Speaking of Paul Rudd, he's got a new show on Netflix. It's actually pretty cool that you may want to check out. Watch a couple episodes.
I didn't know he did shows.
6 episodes. It's like Living with Myself, I think the name of it is. And he gets cloned.
Cloned, yeah. I think I read something about it.
It's 2 of it. And I really enjoyed it. It's something different.
I'll give it a shot. I've always been okay with Paul Rudd.
Yeah, he's not bad.
He's a pretty good Ant-Man. Who didn't like it?
Yeah. Who would have thought? I know.
When he was cast, I was like, what the fuck? But then, the way they did it was pretty good. It's not like Scott Lang's a character I think a lot about, but still,
Yeah, I like the Ant-Man movies.
They're good. But, I mean, it shows the power of Marvel, right? Ant-Man is a character that's never really had his own ongoing series for any sustained length of time, and yet they managed to get 2 movies out of him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, look at the mess that DC's in. There's no Flash movie. Flash, like the character that's been around since the Golden Age and has been like a pivotal,
I didn't see Aquaman. I really don't have a desire to see it.
I could see it, but I don't care to see it either. People act like Aquaman was a failure. Aquaman made a ton of money.
Did it?
The one that was a failure was Justice League. Right. It's not like Justice League didn't make money. It's that it had a $300 million budget. So,
Well, you heard Joker is now the highest grossing R-rated movie.
And I guess that's good. I mean, I don't like the movie. It seems like a weird one to do. But if it raises the profile of a DC character, I guess I'm for that. So I don't want everybody to think that like everything about it is bad, but I really don't like the movie. What else can I say? I don't like the movie. I think it's boring and unpleasant and bland, and I don't know. People don't need to hear it again. And certainly unworthy of the character, and in no way representative of the character. I don't know how you're supposed to reconcile what you see on that screen with the 75 or 80 years of Joker we've had. Any interpretation. And I get it. That's the point of these characters, is you can give them new interpretations, and there's no right or wrong. I don't know. There has to be a line somewhere. There has to be a line. Okay, people don't need to hear this. Let's finish up.
I want a Man-Bat movie immediately.
Why the hell not? See, you could make a Man-Bat movie and not have Batman in it. You could. Yeah. But to make a Joker movie without Batman? What the fuck
yeah.
They're basically defined by each other. And I realize what they're trying to do with the whole origin thing, or Batman at the end, is trying to play up on that, but it's misguided and terrible. Anyway, I have no more energy left for Joker. And it's not even about how it's bad. I was in a big fight with Piz the other day. Not even a fight, but like I didn't understand, like, okay, fine, since we're doing it, we're doing it. He kept going on that the media or whatever had this big campaign to like basically destroy the movie and not let anybody see it. Is that in any way, shape, or form true? I read the odd article that, said some things about the movie, how like it's not a good movie because it's, I don't know, celebrates violence or it's misogynistic. But they were just random articles by random people who have no influence or power or name recognition. And of course, we all heard that, yes, there was in some parts of the United States, they had like security at theaters. But that doesn't have anything to do with this movie. It was because in 2008, somebody shot up a showing of The Dark Knight. So they were thinking, okay, the last movie that, had the Joker had a shooting. Here's another movie with the Joker, so maybe we should do... I'm not saying that's smart. I'm just saying that has nothing to do with the content of the movie. It had to do with the content of another movie.
I think
that was why they were doing it.
There was some reason for them to think that. I don't know exactly why or what, I don't know if they've even released what they found, but, the Pentagon released the warning.
The Pentagon, wow. Yeah. That's crazy.
About people, like, being careful or whatever.
But that's just about being careful. It wasn't like they banned it, and there were no protests at all. I looked it up. I tried to find, did people picket this movie, protest? Zero. So I do not buy into this weird narrative that Piz and some other people are saying that like the media was trying to like destroy the movie or come down on it, and it succeeded despite this agenda from the left or whatever.
It helped.
And that was the other thing I said. There's no such thing as bad publicity when it comes to that sort of thing. The more you tell people what to do, the more they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Don't see this movie. Oh yeah, fuck you. I'm going to go see it. So yeah. So that was really what I was pissed off about. It had nothing to do with the content of the movie. My opinion's well known. I don't like the movie. I just didn't understand why some people like him seemed to champion this movie to the point where they thought that it was some horrible, oppressed movie that was overcoming the odds. I don't buy that at all.
I mean, those articles were out there, and I think they got mainstream attention.
To a certain extent, but again, who was writing them? Not anybody of note or significance. Because I looked up some things and I was like, okay, yeah, there's some articles here saying, oh, the Joker's about incel stuff or blah, blah, blah. But who's really paying attention to that? Like, I can't imagine anybody.
It really wasn't about incel stuff.
No, it wasn't. as I said, I'm happy to shit on the movie. I don't like the movie, but I don't think the movie does anything about incel stuff. I don't think it's misogynistic. I don't think it celebrates violence, and I don't think it has any of the other talking points that people might want to mention. I just think it's a poor movie.
Yeah. Well, they said it was racist too, and
like I have no idea where that could come from.
I mean, the only like main black character in the film is a woman he's like in love with, so I don't know. Like, is that racist?
I don't know.
I mean, it's not portraying. I
didn't read anything about it being racist. It doesn't surprise me because there's always people that'll point out whatever they can find in a movie. Well, but that's a reach.
Apparently, there's one scene when he's pointing the gun at the television, and I think there may be a black guy on the TV.
Yeah, but that's just random. That's random happenstance. The whole point is he's pointing at the TV, not a person on it.
Right.
That's just crazy. That's just, again, when you can read into anything if you really try, I guess. That's just crazy mental gymnastics. But see, to me, nobody took that seriously. No, nobody was picketing. Nobody was saying, this is a racist movie, don't go see it. So, yeah, that was the only point I'm trying to make is I don't care that it's successful. Maybe in the long run it'll be good because even though I think it's a terrible example of the character, at least it raises the profile of the character, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you'll definitely get more comic book movies out of that. So maybe darker in tone too. I mean, I
don't mind a dark tone. I just don't like the story they actually tell.
I want to see Batman really dark, like darker than the Dark Knight.
They could.
I'm not saying go crazy. I'm just saying I'd like to see we're not talking, the 1989 Batman.
Yeah, I know. No. In the time between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, to amuse myself, I wrote the beginnings of a script for one, and it was pretty dark from what I remember. Because I was trying to really build on the idea. So my main bad guy was going to be Black Mask, Roman Sionis, the crime boss with the black mask, and my idea was that he was inspired by the Joker. But the difference was he was like, yeah, I like how the Joker was so ruthless and crazy and stuff. But the difference is the Joker is so crazy he doesn't care about money and profit and power. Well, I do. And that was really going to be sort of the crux of it. Because if you read the comics, he's a pretty sadistic guy who tortures people and stuff all the time. So it's going to have him be sort of the main bad guy. When I was rereading some of it not too long ago, I thought maybe it was too busy. Because just kind of, again, this is in the context of the Nolan trilogy. So I tried to follow his rules, except I broke the big one because I wanted a Robin. So I thought, who's the only Robin that works in his? Jason Todd. So I made Jason Todd Robin, the idea that he was like a street kid that Batman takes in and trains. And there was going to be a part where he gets captured and tortured by Black Mask. And I also had the Riddler before he's the Riddler. The idea was he's this FBI agent who's supposed to be part of this task force to find out who Batman is, and he becomes obsessed. So I had that going on too. But I had parts, at least, I don't know if I wrote it all, but I was going to have a torture scene where the Black Mask was like hammering down in Jason Todd's fingers and stuff. I don't know. So I was trying to make it pretty dark.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I think some of this stuff could be interesting. I don't want to see them do a bunch of villains without the superhero in the film, though.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have much point.
If it means we may get a Riddler movie or a who's the other big one, other big Batman villain?
Two-Face.
Two-Face, that would be cool.
I've heard there was interest after the Joker because it was so successful to do a similar sort of movie for Two-Face. I almost feel like the treatment they gave to Joker works better for Two-Face because, I feel like this Todd Phillips had a fundamental misunderstanding of the Joker character. He really, really didn't get it. The Joker they give us is this beaten down, pathetic loser that can't do anything. I don't know. I don't know why people think that's cool or like it. But, I mean, could you imagine him being dangerous? Could you imagine him being a threat to Batman? God, no. He couldn't do anything. In that whole movement he started, he didn't even do it. It was by accident. He didn't organize it or plan it. And he's immediately caught by the cops. Immediately. So, I mean, you could say, oh, he's just starting out. Okay, I guess. I don't know. Again,
no, but he escaped there at the end.
Yeah, he runs around the hallways a little bit.
I don't know that was real, though. I think that was all in his head.
Yeah, and then there's arguments you could say about how much of the other stuff was in his head when you find out about how there was stuff in his head that we did see, like him having a relationship with the woman. Anyway, I'm sure people are tired of hearing me bitch about the movie. I don't care. I don't like the movie, but I think in the long run, it's probably good that it's successful, even though I feel like it's a horrific depiction of a great character. And it seems incredibly misguided to do a Joker movie that throws the timeline off into such chaos. Because they're saying, oh yeah, Batman does exist. He just shows up 25 years later. Oh, okay. So the Joker's just been running around for 20... okay, I'm going to shut up. We're going to finish this. We're done. We're done. Happy Halloween. Oh my God.
Okay, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back at some point next week with another film in the French Extremity Series. And have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. Thanks.